Good morning. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting and work session for Tuesday, February 11, 2020. By way of introduction, I'm the chair of the board, John Hutchings. To my right is...
Time answer.
My left?
Robin Ports.
Ramiro Chavez.
Thomasina.
Thomasina Cooper. Alvanita Beaumont.
And in support of the board, we have...
Amy Davis. Megan Porter.
Thank you. So we're going to go through this agenda that guides us through these agendas. And we'll start with the Nisqually area flood update.
Yeah, Commissioners, just to give you a perspective, give you a feedback in terms of removal, the departments have responded to the flooding in the Nisqually area, emergency services, public works, public health, and hopefully we can also present to you a plan as to how we're going to be helping the citizens, particularly related to debris removal.
Okay.
Yeah, Kurt Harn, Director of Emergency Services.
Shelley Slaughter, Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services.
Jennifer Walker, Director of Public Works.
Okay, what we're going to do this morning is give you an overview of what's occurred since last Thursday when the flooding started, and then we'll give an overview first, and then from there each department will give a summary of their actions. So first of all, on Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, we were notified at Thurston County Emergency Management that the La Grande Dam was going to increase their discharge rate to 17,000 cubic feet per second. That starts in our dam plan a process to start notifications, evacuations, and so what we immediately started was the Emergency Coordination Center was activated, and we started talking with the Sheriff's Office, Thurston County Sheriff's Office, on evacuation process. We also immediately staffed a call center for residents and people to call into to get information. Red Cross opened a shelter on Thursday afternoon that was for those who were displaced, and there was an average of 1 to 3 people each night from Thursday night through last night staying in the shelter. County agencies that worked the activation and were on the ground with us: Thurston County Sheriff's Office, Public Works, Public Health and Social Services, Community Planning and Economic Development, the PIO Office, GIS. We had Red Cross, who was in our, not only opening the shelter, but in our Emergency Communication Center as well. And we even had the City of Olympia sent staff on Friday to assist with the response. We had 2 fire agencies, Lacey Fire District 3 and Southeast Thurston Fire Agency responded. And on Thursday, the Sheriff's Office and their deputies knocked personally on over 400 doors for evacuation notice. And what we did was 2 levels of evacuation. Our evacuation status is ready, set, go. First level is get ready, because there's a situation coming. The second level is set, and the third level is go, get out of the area. The Sheriff's Office went out and notified on set and go, because we were at that situation when it went up to the 17,000 release number. They actually had to tell people, get out now, and they had to tell other people, get ready to get out in case it changes. And they, again, knocked on over 400 doors, the Sheriff's Office. And so also during that process, we were coordinating sandbags, Public Works was, and we also were working with the Nisqually tribe on the impacts there. On Friday, the river crested. That was the height of the flooding. We continued the evacuation process. We also, the Sheriff's Office did a UAS drone flight that documented the extent of the flooding. There were road closures that were continued, and we continued with sandbag requests and filling those sandbag requests. Shelter operations, as I mentioned earlier, continued. Then we had another different type of weather system coming in Friday night with winds. And we had some damage that occurred from the winds on Friday night, to include the biggest damage was a broken sewage pipe caused by a falling tree that discharged into the inlet. And that was the City of Olympia. At this point, the governor issued an emergency proclamation that included Thurston County. I just want to stress that during this whole operation and this response, Thurston County did not need to declare an emergency proclamation, because we were within our budget authority and our operational authority to continue this response without the need for the board to declare an emergency proclamation. And by the way, the governor's emergency proclamation does not include any additional funding or resources for local jurisdictions. It's for state agencies to be able to provide them for the ability to respond. On Saturday, the floodwaters started receding and roads started opening up. We recommended the evacuation order stay in place until Sunday morning because on Saturday, even though roads were opening, the water around residences still remained, and so they were still cut off and challenged to get to. We worked a reentry plan with CPED and with Public Health and Social Services on Saturday to start the process on Sunday for reentry. On Sunday, the evacuation orders was lifted, and we had emergency management volunteers go door to door and distribute 400 public health and social services flyers on what to do when you re-enter your home from a flooded situation. And that was also placed on the website, that was done on social media. And so public health, this is something they already had pulled together, and it's always been on their website. We just utilized it now for this response. And if people weren't home, which we anticipated they wouldn't be, we put it on their door handles so they'd have information available to them. Public Health also did a boil water notice. I'll let Director Slaughter talk to that in a minute. And then on Monday, we had Washington Conservation Corps, 3 teams going door to door to deliver water to residents. And they went to each neighborhood and each home that may have been impacted. The water, by the way, is donated by Costco and Walmart. So we appreciate our business partners out there that are helping the community. Emergency management staff went through neighborhood, door to door, to survey homes, apartments, and mobile homes for damage assessment information. As of yesterday, and this is a preliminary number because it's still evolving, but as of yesterday, we had 15 to 20 homes with major damage, 6 apartment units that were considered major damage, and 30 dwellings that had minor damage. We are working with United Way for the possibility of a cash management donation process. We're just in preliminary talks right now on that. And then the Red Cross shelter remains open. We're assessing that today to determine there was 1 person in it last night who stayed in it. Our concern is that we want to make sure all residents are taken care of if they still don't have a place to stay. We are continuing the damage assessment. We're working with the state for a damage assessment process to determine if it's a possibility for a federal disaster declaration. Today's actions are, there's 3 Washington Conservation Corps teams in the neighborhood working with residents to muck out their homes. They go in there, they help rip out the insulation, rip out whatever's been damaged by the floodwaters, and just work with them on that. We have 2 teams that are continuing water delivery throughout the neighborhood. And so, subject to your questions, I will let Director Slaughter continue her piece of it.
Any
Kurt, real
questions at
quick,
this point?
can you repeat the numbers of homes damaged?
Our estimates right now are 15 to 20 homes with major damage, 6 apartment units with major damage, and then 30 dwellings with minor damage.
Thank you.
So from a public health and social services perspective, there are currently no imminent threats to public health at this time, but we know after flooding that there are potential hazards to public health, and we're working with our partners to assess that damage and assess the potential impacts. What we do know, and as Director Harden stated on Sunday, is that wells can have debris in them that can make, and other kind of flood materials that can make drinking water unsafe. And many people in the impacted community are on well water. So on Sunday afternoon, we issued a boil water notice advising residents of the impacted area to not drink their water or use their water until it has been tested, and advising people to use bottled water or to boil their water. This is in effect currently, and our public health lab, water lab here is available to test samples so that people can know if their water is clear to drink. We also, again, work to get a lot of public information and education out there, advising people what they can do to protect their homes, their families, their health and safety. And we continue to do that, providing those materials out to the public and working with my partners here at the table and others to help coordinate the disposal of hazardous materials, which can impact people's health and safety. So that's the status of public health at this time. Do you have any questions?
We're going to have several questions. We'll just go ahead and
Okay.
finish up. Thank you.
Director Walker.
Good morning, Commissioners. So last Thursday, Public Works began delivering filled sandbags. We delivered approximately 1,900 over Thursday and Friday. We started closing. We closed a couple of roads on Thursday. We closed a total of 8 roads, coordinated detour routes and notifications with the City of Lacey, City of Yelm, and Washington State Department of Transportation. We monitored the water levels over the road over the weekend. By Saturday morning, we had all of the roads opened with the exception of Riverbend Drive, which was open on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Yesterday we did an initial assessment of damages, and at this time, preliminary estimates are about $20,000 in infrastructure repairs. Specifically, Durgin Road Southeast, we did have a small washout on the north side of the road just before the tunnel. Originally, we thought that the City of Lacey, that they had a water main that had broke, but that was not the case. We do have some exposed utilities and some of them that were severed. So CenturyLink and Comcast, I believe, were out there yesterday, and we're working through the night to fix them, and I haven't heard if those are fixed yet. But as soon as that happens, we'll rebuild the shoulder there with rock. The other 2 roads, Riverbend Drive and 6th Avenue Southeast, there is mud and silt left over from the high water that we'll be cleaning up, and then we need to build up the shoulder on both of those. We did inspect the levee, and it appears to be in good shape and no work is needed there. With respect to facilitating a potential solution to some of the debris management, we did have a conversation with Republic, and they have donated 3 48-foot containers, and we'll cover that and the transportation and the disposal of the material. So we're still assessing what the full impacts will be and how we'll cover where the actual debris is and where the containers are, because the containers are too large to bring on site.
Okay. Sir, do you have any questions?
I'd like to hear a little more about how this all happened. We went through this in '96. Basically, Tacoma Power has been hanging on to water so that they have power capabilities and not lowering the reservoir soon enough. So have you had any conversations with those folks? I know down on the Cowlitz they run the Mayfield Dam, and they lowered it down there enough to alleviate these problems. So I commend you folks for all of your efforts kind of after the fact, but I'm a bit critical, and I would chastise Tacoma Power for not seeing this need to release earlier, and I'm looking for some kind of a solution there to see that that might not happen again. And I know we don't have the authority over them, but we can certainly make some recommendations or write some letters to those that could influence that. So do you have any more to comment on that?
Sure, a great question, Commissioner. The Tacoma Power, we have not had any contact or discussions with them about the cause of the release because we've been busy with the response. I think that is more into the long-term recovery piece of that if those questions do come up, and the discussion with Tacoma Power. We've been only talking with them about that actual release and the impacts of the release per our dam plan. But I also want to stress that there's 3 of us up here, but we are the faces of what was a coordinated response activity from a lot of agencies inside of Thurston County, private nonprofits, United Way. So it was, we are still working, and we continue to work towards helping the residents. But the discussion with Tacoma Power, I think, will come out eventually. I think it's more appropriate down the road than it is today.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Any questions? Okay. I've got a few questions. And thank you, and thank you for saying that you are the face of the response for the county. I'm very impressed with it. So I'll start with my last question, and that is following up on Commissioner Edwards. That's more of not a question as it is a comment. I would like to look into. I don't know what kind of if there's any type of agreement between the two counties regarding the Tacoma Power and such, the Tacoma Light, but I don't know if there's liability for what their actions were, but I'd like to find out legally if there's anything we can do to recover money from them or from somewhere up that way for this, because it could have been potentially mitigated to some extent. I understand their needs as well. So I'll start with your coordinated response. I was on the scene of the shelter area with American Red Cross both Friday and Saturday morning and chatted with those folks, and was surprised there was only two folks that were helping, not two families, but two people on Friday, and only, I think, like 6 on Saturday. Kind of surprised me. But they were well staffed, and it was pretty cool. Besides reporting to all the different agencies that you have, what is it that United Way needs from us in order to kick off what they need to kick off, process-wise?
We have gone, and the prosecuting attorney's office did a review of what the governor's proclamation came out and said, and that is sufficient to cover what United Way would need from the county in order to, push this process down. But what we need to do is give United Way some more information. We just got the damage assessment in late yesterday afternoon. We're translating it to maps, to working with the assessor's office and information they have to show the actual locations. So they need some of that information from us, but we are working with them to get that information to them today.
Okay, because I had a couple conversations with the executive director, Chris Wells, yesterday, and I understand you're in contact with Paul Larson regarding this information and getting it fed back and forth.
Correct. Paul is here today, too.
I see him, yeah. Okay, I just want to be sure I know we're on top of it. I just need to hear it, okay? It was nice to hear about Republic, what they're doing. Is number one, is it free? Are they donating this, or are they charging?
No, they are donating 3
Okay.
48-foot containers and covering the transportation and disposal from the work.
Is that separate from LeMay and Lakeside? It's a different company.
We have, well, yes, our contract is with Republic.
Okay.
And LeMay is a subcontractor for Republic, and LeMay is the one that's handling operations at the work and the drop box
Because I was in
facilities.
touch with them on Friday. They were already calling me and offering up containers and hauling
LeMay or Lakeside?
Lakeside.
Lakeside is obviously is a different
Maybe it was
company.
LeMay.
LeMay or Lakeside?
I think it must have been LeMay.
Well, LeMay is one of the same
So it's one of the
with
same. then.
Republic.
So, okay, we're not crossing streams.
No, we're not. No, we're not crossing streams.
Good.
We reached out to the contact that was provided for Lakeside, and there was the person was in a challenging cell phone location at that point in time
Okay.
yesterday. We're hoping to have a better conversation with them today to follow up on that offer.
Okay. That takes care of that and that and that. And then it was nice to hear Olympia city staff were present and on scene.
Correct. They were present in the ECC. They came in offering, what could they do to help. Worked with us for several hours on Friday. While we appreciate that because that shows the close coordination, not only with Olympia, but all the cities and jurisdictions within Thurston County.
So is Lacey out there besides fire?
The city of Lacey, their emergency management position is vacant right now, so they did not have anyone, but we are working with them on other issues.
Okay, because it was in their city was the shelter.
Correct.
Okay. Our water needs are being taken care of for those folks out there. And the shelter, okay. Sandbag removal. We delivered 1,900. Do we ever get those back? Do we even want them back? What do we do with the remaining sandbags? Do we have to haul them away? What happens?
We do not need them back.
I wouldn't think so. We don't want them.
Correct.
So the people have to dispose of them, or Republic, something?
No,
or is that part of the silt that's on our roads?
The individual property owners who have used the sandbags are responsible for disposal of those sandbags.
Okay. And finally, the final thing is, can we do some type of a certificate of appreciation for Costco and Walmart for donating all the cases and pallets of water and such for their appreciation, our appreciation for what they're doing?
Yeah, I give us some time, Commissioner, to go through this emergency response. And I think it will be helpful not just to look at Walmart and Costco, obviously, but others that have participated in this.
Yeah, right.
And we'll make a point to come to one of the commissioners' meetings for you to thank all those organizations and individuals that have helped us go through this.
That'd be great, thank you. Anything else?
Well, I guess I do want to commend everybody that was helping, but I also want to hold some folks accountable. And we had an earlier conversation, and I don't know where to start assessing some blame, but I really feel that we need to be in contact with someone that's got some oversight, because I know we don't have any oversight over that dam. So
I
you
think
have a
the
suggestion?
conversation you and I had this morning, as you know, and you stated, the county doesn't have any oversight over the Tacoma Power. And the dam itself is located in Pierce County, and they have been operating this dam for, I don't know, decades, for some time. What will be the efficient way that perhaps the board can exercise their concerns? My point of view is sending a letter to Tacoma Power is just going to fall into deaf ears. It's going to be just another letter going into a file. Perhaps what we can explore down the road is for you to send a letter to the Washington State Utilities and Transportation Commission and outline whatever concerns you believe is adequate. That might be a tool that we can explore down the road for you to send a letter. And I can work with Kurt to ensure that letter is stating what your concerns are.
I appreciate that, whether we start low and work high, or top to bottom, or all-inclusive, because I'd rather do it now, under these circumstances, than, thank God no one was killed, that no one drowned, that there wasn't some type of fatality, and then take action. I'm going to do something now for the future. It just sets the tone where I'm coming from. I don't know about my seatmates, but yeah, we'll discuss that down the road then.
Commissioner Mexico.
I would assume that there's pretty comprehensive rules involved, and I don't know anything about it, but before we're off, I would want to know what the legal framework landscape is, and where, if there was a discretionary decision made, then that's maybe somewhere where we come in and say we felt like that wasn't properly exercised. But I'm guessing there's very strict parameters on what the decisions that they make in this type of situation, and I would want to if that's where we're going with this, then I want some background to understand what the legal landscape of this issue is.
Absolutely, and that's where my suggestion is, because this is going to be a long term. There's really nothing the Washington State Utilities and Transportation Commission can do at this point. But long term, what is it that perhaps the avenues the county may have in highlighting the concerns in that letter? And I assume at some point the WTC will have a hearing related to this matter. So then we'll have the opportunity to also to exercise our concerns at that point.
Good.
And I understand the urgency and the of responding right now, but I think we need to pause and take the right steps in order to have an effective letter, if that is the desire of the board.
Well, and a deeper understanding, because I don't understand that either, what the parameters are. But I don't want to wait 6 months or so. I mean, it's happened. It's going to happen again. I don't want to rush, but we got to, I think, take advantage of the time. Mm-hmm. Timeliness.
Maybe just one more thing, Kurt. Would you see if you can't look into what Lewis County Emergency Management did? Because they obviously had a better relationship, I think, with Tacoma Power through that Mayfield Dam and the Cowlitz River, because they released earlier to keep that level down so they didn't have the problem later on.
Okay, I can reach out to Lewis County Emergency Management.
Thank you.
Okay, the other piece I want to emphasize is that those residents who have flood insurance, which is separate from homeowners insurance, will be better off financially than the residents with just homeowners insurance, because homeowners insurance usually does not pay for flooding. And so if I want to make a pitch here for financial mitigation, it is for people to do two things. One, sign up for flood insurance, because the county is a community rating system of 2, we have discounts off of the premiums for flood insurance in the county because of our CRS rating. The second piece is, if people are not already signed up for TC Alert, that was one of our main tools for notifying residents along the river for evacuation. So I'd make the pitch for those 2 items for people that are listening.
And then do a pitch then, how do they sign up for the TC Alert?
They go to the Thurston County Emergency Management website, and it's, they go to the county website, there's Thurston County Emergency Management website there, and then they can sign up right there on the spot.
Thank you. You're very competent and professional people. I felt comfortable knowing things were taken care of. Thank you.
Good job, thank you.
And now it's our homeless update with Keely Marino. Welcome, Keely.
Good morning, Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. So, not tons going on in the community, but one of the things that has occurred in the last week that I would report on is that I and I think everyone in the community received several invitations to attend a presentation on Friday night put on by sponsored by a local community. I was not able to attend, but was able to follow up and watch the video on Saturday morning of the entire presentation, and then subsequent videos that followed. And so I'm kind of monitoring it and talking with stakeholders in our local jurisdictions, and we'll be just watching and seeing how City of Olympia engages with it in particular. And then our second episode of The Outsiders came out, not ours, but the Seattle Times, or KNKX second episode of The Outsiders came out last week, which is, as a reminder, is a podcast around City of Olympia's homeless response over the last year. The third episode will most likely be coming out this week, so just if you want to keep tabs on that particular media attention on our homeless, or not ours, but Olympia's homeless response. And then otherwise, we've just been following, trying to stay on top of legislation that's important to homeless crisis response efforts. And I have some updates on those if you're curious. And that's pretty much it.
Anything, Commissioner?
I guess I would ask, as you move forward on this problem, if there isn't some mechanism that you could put together to bring back to us, maybe on successes.
Okay.
And how we would measure those successes to make sure that we're getting, I guess, a bang for our buck on expenditures. Do we have some examples where we've helped individuals either through like mental health treatment or drug addiction treatment and got them back into a lifestyle where they're productive rather as an asset rather than a liability?
Absolutely. We do have performance measures that are built into our homeless management information system that the Department of Commerce will be making a report on an annual basis. So there's data, success stories, but absolutely there are numerous success stories that we could pull from our system.
Any questions or comments?
As you're tracking the bills that are most relevant, is there, just in your personal opinion, is there one, what's the bill that's percolating out there that you think would be the most impactful if it were to succeed?
I think
For
one
us.
would be House Bill 1590, which is the council-matic vote on the tax increase. That one is moving through, so just keeping an eye on that one. Some of the substitute and some amendments to that bill have been to require cities or counties of a certain size to put aside 30% of those tax dollars for the cities of a certain population, but that has been pushed ahead with that only being relevant to King County. So King County, if that bill were to pass, King County would then have to put 30% of their tax, if the council were to vote for it, into Seattle, essentially.
But we're not big enough to meet that. And if that did apply to us, though, Olympia already passed this tax.
Yes, but it could be, any of the jurisdictions could pass, as far as I understand, a similar home fund kind of initiative, but it would be councilmatic rather than a vote of the people. And then another one to pay attention to, I think, is it's a lot of tax bills that will be, certainly have an impact on the work that we're doing. 1406 has a trailer bill this year to kind of keep an eye on some of the difficulties and technical problems that came along with 1406, so that's moving swiftly through. And then another one to keep an eye on is House Bill 2649, which is the governor's House bill, which is the bill that would expand shelter capacity in local, in counties and local jurisdictions. That bill is slated to not be an unfunded mandate if the supplemental budget that was proposed by the governor passes. And so the Association of County and Human Services, through the Washington State Association of Counties, is strongly encouraging that bill not to pass unless there's a funding element attached to it.
Oh, is this the one about 50% that we were talking about?
And on all the bills, you already took an action on that. And this particular one, my suggestion was to oppose it because it seems to be a non-funded mandate. But I think if the bill moves through the process and there's an opportunity to have funding associated with those mandates, that's something you may want to revisit their support. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Got it. I attended that meeting Friday night with Love Olympia, and I went in with, I thought, to be an open mind. It's always good to hear other perspectives and what's working in other jurisdictions and such, but I was sorely disappointed in the presentation. And I don't know if you heard anything back from anybody that attended.
I'm having meetings this week with our local stakeholders, with our providers, with City of Olympia to kind of get their feedback on their take on it. I know that I'm aware that some providers attended as well. I'm not sure who from the city attended. So I'm waiting to have some meetings with them to kind of check into them.
Who was it that brought this entourage up for this presentation?
My understanding is a small group of people who have several group names, but one of them is a Love Olympia, and that's as far as I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I found the presenter very disrespectful, not only to other people in the audience with opposing views, but with language, but also disrespectful of our norms and our five-year plan. And then while making a comment that I know you can't arrest your way out of this issue, it was vigilantism, citizens arrest, hold people accountable, that type of attitude, as well as I perceived it to be also a conspiracy theory that whilst the police and the cities are quietly meeting, they're not addressing the issue. They're doing this to gather more money. It's just a money pitch, a money grab. I just found it not a wise use of my time to be respectful. Anything else on that? Go ahead.
Yes, I guess I'd have to comment. I was there as well. There was also a group of the Antifa folks there. That developed into a confrontation. Maybe it could have been held,
Sorry, I missed this.
dealt with in a different fashion, I might say. But the sense that I came away from there is there's a frustrated group of citizens in the Olympia area that want to have this homeless thing dealt with in an effort to help those individuals that are in a bad situation make a better choice. And to help them make that better choice, sometimes you have to make life uncomfortable for them to encourage them to change their behavior. So I went away with a different perspective, and I think we'll be hearing more about this as time goes on. But I can assure you their intentions are well, and they have a view of this very similar to what I would call tough love rather than enabling love. So, two different perspectives from the same event.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Keely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're going to move on with the reviewing the agenda for the meeting for this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we'll call the meeting to order. And the pledge
as a reminder, Commissioner, we do not have a Board County Commissioners meeting next Tuesday.
next Tuesday, that's right, because it follows
The holiday.
President's Day. Is that it? Thank you. So we'll call the meeting together, convene the meeting at 2 o'clock, and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Ty Menser, and then approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from February the 4th, and we move right into presentations. The first one from Public Works, introduction of employees.
Yeah, this afternoon, Commissioner Scott Lindblom, the county engineer, will be in Tim Wilson. He is the manager of stormwater and noxious weeds. They will introduce new staff in Public Works. That will be Jesse King, Brandy Schroeder, Kevin Forbes Kashani, Todd Mason, Amber Little John, and Skylar Specht.
Okay? Questions or comments about the
No, sir.
presentation? All right. Number 2, emergency services employee.
I would recommend, Commissioners, for you to amend the agenda this afternoon to remove this item because Kurt Harding was going to introduce the new employee on the emergency services division. However, the new employee is responding to the emergency at this point. So we'll bring this item to
Okay.
a later date for your consideration. So I will ask this afternoon for you to consider removing this item.
Got that. You have that law? Thank you. Then we move to item number 1 on the agenda, opportunity for public comment. You aware of anything that might be fast and furious?
You may be receiving public testimony from those individuals and citizens affected by the flood. That's probably what, maybe you've received some testimony on that.
Okay. You aware of anything?
No.
Are you, Gary?
No, sir.
And then number 2, county manager's update.
I don't have any specific updates. What I will do this afternoon, provide to the citizens a brief report on the flood response, not to the extent that you heard this morning, but a little more in a summary.
Okay. And agenda item number 3 is the consent items A through F. The first one, 3A, is the sheriff's office.
Commissioners, you reviewed this item last week, and this is a request for you to consider to split a petty cash fund. Currently, this petty cash fund is $1,000. The sheriff's office is requesting to split this fund. One, they will have a $200, and the other one, $800. In the request, it will allow them to have a much better operation on the front window when they process cash transactions in their office.
Okay, anything?
No, sir.
No.
All right, 3B, public health social services resolution.
Also for your consideration, Commissioners, this is for you to consider creating a 0.6 full-time FTE of a community health nurse with an end date of February 28, 2021, just about a year. And the reason for this is that currently some of the community health nurses are expecting, and they're going to be taking maternity leave, and we need this 0.6 FTE just to cover and mitigate some of the absences related to their leave.
Okay. Anything? 3C, human resources, collective bargaining.
And I believe this is the last 3 collective bargaining agreements between Thurston County and the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, also known as AFSME. And this includes the 3 contracts, the local 618T, the local 6NT-CO, and the local 618DC. That covers just about most of the represented employees here in the county. And as you have approved previous contract with other unions, it has the same tone. It has a 3-year duration. It starts on January 1st, 2020, and ends on December 31st, 2022. It's a 3-year period. And also, as previous contracts, level off the cost of living increases 2.4% in 2020, and for 2021 and 2022, it has some sideboards of 1.5% to 2.5%. And that's really, it will be tied to the CPI of the Seattle-Tacoma area.
All right, anything?
No, sir.
No.
All right, 3D, appointment to the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District Board.
Yeah, this is an affirmation of a reappointment of Nancy Clausen to the Capital Area Regional Public District Board. And Ms. Clausen is already serving as a member of this board, and her current tenure will be ending on March 1st, 2020. So this appointment will go from March 1st, 2020 to March 1st, 2024. Just to give you a bit of feedback as to what this, the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District is all about. The Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District is a municipal corporation, is a special taxing district created by Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County back in 2003. It finances payments on bonds issued by Lacey and Olympia for the construction of 2 regional event centers. That's the Lacey Regional Athletic Complex and the Olympia Hands-On Children's Museum. That is the gist of this board. And again, this is asking for you to affirm this confirmation. In all the different cities will have to take the similar actions related to this appointment.
Anything on that?
No, sir.
So I don't remember seeing this before.
I don't remember either.
Is this a new item?
There's a new item.
And do we just have one representative from Thurston County and this is our representative, or is?
No, it's a regional representative. It's not a representative from Thurston County. So the makeup of the board members is, one is regional, how many? Is 2 regional representatives. And one from Olympia, one from Tumwater, and one from Lacey. So, but each of those jurisdictions, part of this district, they need to take a similar action. So you, in this case, you will affirm this action because you will not be the sole legislative body who appoints this position. It puts it that way.
And this, are there, I mean, are there other people that want to be on this, in this position, or?
No, because this is, has come to us as a reappointment.
It's already been, are we the first in the line, or have other
These are all the
jurisdictions
questions
taken
I
action?
have, yeah.
I don't know if we were first in line. Is Lacey Olympia taking action on
I
this?
don't know who has taken action at this time. I don't believe we are the first, but I don't know, but I can find out.
If you like, we can take this item out and get more information for you.
If there's no time frame, I would rather it would be taken out until we can get a better briefing on this. This is unusual that we have this mover.
Yeah, because I don't know
Right
if,
to this format.
like my seatmate, I don't know who proffered the name, and she's been there. It's a reappointment. Well, it says affirm the appointment of, so it's not a reappointment?
It's a reappointment.
It is
It's a
reappointment.
commission, yeah.
And, yeah, I just have too many questions.
It's interesting because particularly the 2 of you went through the same questions when the appointment of a regional representative was 2 years ago on this board.
Well, we're consistent then, aren't we?
Yeah, but consistent.
They probably dealt with a few things between now and then.
So, yeah, although please know that I didn't say, let me take you back.
No, you just
We
did.
want to be taken back.
But the question is, and that I have, are we just rubber stamping what the cities have already proffered? Or is it- I don't know.
I don't want to use the rubber stamping designation. You're affirming a reappointment.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get more information on it.
So there is no other applications as far as I know.
Okay. So we'll get more information and then bring it back.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I will ask for you to remove this item this afternoon as well.
Thank you, sir.
With no reflection on the applicant to be appointed, I'd like to point out.
No,
Because I don't-
it's just regarding my ignorance
It's
of
just
this
a-
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3E, interlocal agreement with the city of Rainier for
This is
district court.
also a new item for you. And this is for you to consider approving the interlocal agreement with the city of Rainier and authorize the county manager to sign this agreement. Any future amendments covers 10%. As a little bit of a history, this has been a long-term coming. The previous agreement that we had with Rainier to process cases on district court has been a bit of a challenge because the sheriff's office provides that with law enforcement, and it's difficult to pinpoint where the violation was originated in terms of whether it's City of Rainier or not. So it has been extremely difficult for district court to bill the City of Rainier, to the point is perhaps we have not been billing the City of Rainier for quite some time because the difficulty of getting down to the level of the location of the infractions themselves. So I have worked with district court, and also we met with the City of Rainier. And what we have changed is just a flat rate based on historical data that we have received. So the city will agree to pay $6,000 per year, billed at a rate of $1,500 every quarter for 2020 through the end of this agreement, which is December 31st, 2022. I think that's probably the best way as to how we need to put together this agreement. And again, the City of Rainier has already taken an action of this, and I will ask for you to consideration to approve this agreement and provide and give me the authority to sign that agreement with the City of Rainier.
Anything?
Nope, I think that covers it.
So it sounds like district court services, but you made reference, you were describing law enforcement response. What are we
Well,
paying for exactly? Or what
No,
are we?
this is just for processing, because what I'm describing is the sheriff's office issue a ticket.
Uh-huh.
So that ticket goes to district court. And that ticket is difficult to trace the actual location of which that ticket was issued.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because the sheriff's office doesn't keep track, I believe, where that is, whether it's the City of Rainier or unincorporated areas of the county. So, and it becomes extremely difficult and time-consuming to get ticket by ticket to determine the actual location and when the ticket was issued. Did I answer your question? Or?
Yes and no.
Yeah, yeah, you answered my question. I might have others, but go ahead.
Okay, with the citation, the deputy puts down where the citation occurred. The deputy, he or she, will know whether that's in the city limits or county. And it doesn't go through dispatch because they would know. So it seems to me the deputy would put down whether it's a city location or unincorporated, and that would solve the issue.
Is the labor behind to go ticket by ticket to determine the location in district court?
I'm talking about from day off, day forward.
And send a bill, ticket by ticket, to Rainier.
So this just covers it, it's a
Flat
blanket.
fee is just better, you're
Yeah,
saying?
just a blanket, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's like they have to know where the city of Yelm's borders are. They have to know where the city of Tenino's borders are. I don't understand why Rainier would be different, but if you're saying just it's more efficient to do a flat fee billing, I can understand that.
In the other jurisdictions is different law enforcement.
Right, that's why they have to know exactly where those borders are, because they have to coordinate with a different
It's easy when
agency.
you receive a ticket from Olympia Police Department, or, well, not Olympia, but Lacey Police Department and Tumwater Police Department. Pretty self-explanatory at that
Yeah.
point.
Okay, but this covers it. Thank you. And then 3F, the voucher list. Any questions or comments on the vouchers?
It was substantial.
My goodness. Yeah, it was. Anything? Okay. Takes us to agenda item number 4. Department items. We'll start with juvenile court probation, approving a contract.
You reviewed this item last week, Commissioners. With juvenile court is requesting the Commissioners to authorize 2 elements: to waive the requirements of Thurston County, the procurement policy, for bidding requirements, and award the contract to Community Youth Services in the amount of $311,681 for the period of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2022 to provide juvenile diversion services in accordance to RCW 1340. Last week, when you reviewed this item, you asked a couple of questions. What has been the rate of expenditure that has occurred in the last few years, and also what will be the funding source in which those programs will be funded. I have a report that in the last 3 years, which is similar to what the contract that is before you today. In 2017, they spent $95,000 $97,969. In 2018, they spent $97,888. In 2019, they spent $99,846, for a total of $293,703 in the last 3 years. Fast forward to today, the request is for you to authorize $311,691. Just the cost of doing business has increased. This, on a yearly basis, is funding $85,000 by a grant through the Consolidated Juvenile Service Block Grant. In the remainder, let's pick a year, for instance, 2017, $15,000 or $10,000 will be supplemented by the general fund. This is already included on the budget authorized for juvenile court, and I believe those are the questions that you had for me last week.
Anything? Anything on that? Good, thank you. Item number 5, information technology purchase.
You also reviewed this item last week. This item is to outfit the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Deputy Patrol vehicles with a mobile computer terminal, also known as MCT, at a cost of $444,896.92. And this is coming from the IT replacement fund, I believe. These mobile devices allow the deputies to access all job-related systems, including computer-aided dispatch and the Sheriff's Records Management System. The current tablets they're using the deputies were purchased 5 years ago, and the life cycle has just happened to be 5 years. Those were installed in 2015. So this is a new, an updated tablet. They will allow us to perform their duties a little more effectively, and also brings back in terms of the requirements of the new operating system, which is Windows 10, and also implements a multi-factor authentication, and this is a cybersecurity type of approach.
Okay, anything?
No, sir.
Anything on that? Okay. Thank you. And then let's turn the page and see what happens. Oh, there is more. Number 6, emergency services, executing a contract for FEMA.
For your consideration, Commissioner, is to extend the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Contract. Back in 2018, July 2018, the board approved getting grants for $215,609. And through that time, you also authorized the specific activities to elevate homes from the floodplain. Additional money became available in the order of $46,075.65. So in order for us to utilize this additional grant money, we need to also extend the current contract. So, and again, this is an extension of the existing contract and also increasing the amount by $46,075.65.
Anything?
No, sir.
Anything?
Home elevations are good.
Good, thank you. And number 7, public health social services, waiver of competitive solicitation and amendment to extend the Thurston County Chamber Foundation Thurston Thrives contract for a year.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item, Commissioner, and again, it's two actions that you, for your consideration is one is to move the waiver of competitive solicitation under our current policy, and also to extend the existing contract to December 31st, 2020 with the Thurston County Chambers Foundation. The Chambers Foundation is the one who provides the administrative services for the Thurston Tribes Coordinating Council. The county contributes to that effort $40,000 a year. That is included in the 2020 budget, and this is the instrument in which we extend the contract as well as the amount. For the 2-year period, there will be a total of $80,000. But again, this is only for the 2020, which is $40,000. I don't know if you want me to walk through what the Thurston Tribes Coordinating Council does. Or if you have any questions?
Do you have any-
I don't.
You don't? No questions?
I have no questions.
Nope, I sit
Nope.
on it, so I know
Got it,
what
but thank you.
does.
7B, contract interlocal agreement with TMBHA.
Yeah, this is a yearly authorization for you to approve an agreement with the Thurston Behavioral Health Organization that will cover the year 2020 from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. And this is the distribution of the treatment sales tax for their operations on the BHO. And again, this is the instrument in which we send the money to BHO. And the total amount is $2,500,033. I believe that Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Hutchings sits on the board, and I believe you are expecting this as well.
Do you have the check?
As soon as you approve.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yes.
Please.
This is Thurston Mason. This money that we're talking about is raised through our tax process?
Yes.
And it's going to be expended in a joint effort?
I think it's going to be spent in Thurston County activities. Yeah.
Yep, that's my
So-
understanding.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
will not subsidize in Mason County activities related to the BHO, if that is
Thank
your
you.
concern.
It is called Thurston Mason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, just kind of clarifying that.
Yeah.
Anything?
Nope.
Okay. And, okay, that takes care of that. 7C, Housing and Homeless Prevention, Request for Proposals.
This is also a yearly event, Commissioners, for you to authorize that request for proposals to receive projects and proposals related to the Federal Home Investment Partnership Act, what we call the HOME. We have a total of $2,704,000 for 2020, and that includes many funds. Includes the home fund, the $700,000, the 2060 funds, $320,000, the 2163 funds, $360,000, the veterans, another $75,000, the HHSC, approximately $249,000, and the CDBG money, which is $1 million. And this $1 million of CDBG money this year is for the city of Lacey. As you may recall, the CDBG money goes year by year, and so this is the year in which the city of Lacey will distribute those funds. And again, this is a request for proposals to receive applications, and then the next steps in the process will be to review those applications and bring those to the HHSC, I believe, for their consideration, and eventually the recommendation out of the HHSC will come to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval. Tom Webster is here if you want to have any questions related to this proposal.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Questions
Yes.
from Tom? Come on up, Tom. Thank you.
One question is, are we, the dollar amounts that Ramiro outlined, is that what we expected? Is that consistent with previous years? How does that look for 2020?
Yeah, so Tom Webster, Public Health and Social Services. So yes, it is in line with what we expected. In addition, last year we awarded some contracts that are essentially two-year contracts. And so yesterday at the HHSC meeting, that group approved around $4 million in renewals of two-year contracts. So we'll be coming back to you for approval of those contracts at the end of this process when we bring all the proposed projects to you. So we had a little over $4 million in funding that will be, in a sense, second-year grants. So added with this $2 million is approximately $6 million a year, which is what we expect annually. We don't have our final federal budget from HUD yet, so the numbers for the home and CDBG programs are estimates based on what we received last year.
Okay. And then this request for proposals that we're approving, or proposed to be approving, and this may be a question for Hutch too, but I mean, is it just kind of template, or is it, or are there elements to it that the HHSC or your staff or something has put into it that we should be reviewing before we approve it? I mean, how much is it just kind of a generic ask, or are there complex elements that should be vetted or discussed further?
So we have a standard RFP proposal that we've used for the last several years, but we do propose the priorities, the specific priorities that we look for funding on. We brought to the HHSC yesterday, and the HHSC approved the specific priorities that we're seeking to fund, for projects we're seeking to fund with these dollars.
And has there been a change from last year to this year on those priorities?
No, there's not been a substantial change. Because there's fewer dollars, they're a little more targeted. We're not, for those priorities that were funded with the 2-year grants, they're not included in this funding. So it's a little more targeted, but generally no.
You're comfortable with what was proposed and discussed?
And the only change, well, you said there was nothing substantive in the change, other than one was for small emergency or small repairs or whatever. We take out the word small.
Yeah, so we
Just any repairs.
the HHC
for emergency.
will be funding basic needs, and so they did a little bit of wordsmithing around the definition of what is
Yeah.
a basic need or a housing basic need. So there's a little bit of wordsmithing, but it's the same general priority of looking to fund, for the HHSC dollars, they were looking to fund basic need activities, food, emergency funds for those types of things.
So I'm very comfortable with this, and we chewed it up pretty good yesterday, and it consisted of the electives in the county,
Yep.
sans a couple. And there was just a small nuanced change to the process, but not about anything regarding the dollars or request for proposal, just in vetting them when they come in.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
And then agenda item number 8 is the sheriff interlocal agreement for Thurston County for the mutual aid and SWAT deployment.
Yeah, the sheriff's office is requesting the board to authorize a local agreement related to the SWAT team, and that includes the local law enforcement agencies. This has been, at least from my point of view, a long time coming.
Go ahead, sir, I'm listening.
I'm sorry, a long time coming related to this partnership. And the jurisdictions involved in this agreement is the City of Lacey, Thurston County, City of Olympia, City of Tumwater, and City of Yelm.
So when we discussed this last week, we had mentioned we were excited or anticipating the sheriff to come in and explain it to us. Did I miss something
No, the undersheriff will be here to present that.
this afternoon?
Yeah. Is that what you asked?
Well, I wanted prior, well, that is prior to an action, but what if we don't want to approve it? Or what if we want to hold it off for a week?
Well, you have the option not to say
No,
no
I
this
understand
afternoon.
that. I was just anticipating something sooner than right at the doorstep.
Oh, I misunderstood because you reviewed this item last week.
Yeah.
So I didn't receive any direction as to what else you want to have on this item.
Okay.
Well, I'm remembering, I think, the same thing as Hutch, which is that I had pointed out that I thought there was a change from previous years, and you were like, yes, that's going to be explained next week. So I held off my questions last week because I thought there was going to be an explanation as to why this agreement's different than the previous one, whether it's, I think it's a partner that's no longer part of this, and how that unfolded.
So if you like, I mean, what you're recalling is the Chehalis tribe wanted to be part of this agreement. And that created a lot of conversations among the different jurisdictions.
Right.
And I will give Tim Braniff the opportunity to explain as to how that went.
Okay.
And that is the gist as to why this agreement took so long.
I'm not against it. I just had a couple questions. Yeah, who's still involved and who's been
Can you give me
not
the
involved?
question so I give Andrew Sheriff Braniff a heads up as to what questions he needs to address this afternoon?
I'd like to know what's the change between this one and the previous
Okay.
MOU? Anything?
Anything else?
So the tribe had not been part of it, they wanted to be part of it, but,
They were not part of it in the previous agreement.
okay, so it was just a proposal to maybe add them, then it turned out not to be feasible.
For many reasons, it didn't work out.
Okay. Go ahead, you have a comment?
Sovereignty, I think, is the one issue that might be addressed.
If that's it, I'm okay with it. But the undersheriff will be here.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And then agenda item number 9, county manager request to set a public hearing. Woo-hoo.
For your consideration, commissioners will receive an application for a franchise agreement from Zayo Group. And they're seeking a franchise agreement to operate within the county's right-of-way. And all the offices and departments associated with this particular application have been reviewed. And one step that you need to take before you take any action related to this application is for you to hold a public hearing. So this request is for you to consider setting the public hearing for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon in this building in room 280.
Okay, anything? Anything on that?
I think you mentioned this last time, but what does the Zayo Group do for us?
So this
What
is
is their service?
this is a brand new group which has been purchasing telecommunications, I believe, over time. So this is a brand new name, new group. So it used to be a smaller providers along the way. So this is a larger company that's requesting a franchise agreement.
Okay.
And then we wrap it up with our
Do you have additional questions? Or?
assignments.
I probably do, but this is just setting a public hearing, and I'll listen to what we hear and ask
Yeah.
questions as a follow-up. I don't need to ask them right now.
It's a telecommunication company. They don't provide services to the county. They provide services to the citizens.
Right. And is there any
So they
limit?
use our rights of way.
And is there any limit to how many companies we can allow to have a franchise agreement for
Not
telecommunications?
that I'm aware.
I mean, certainly you can set a limit, but by law, I don't think we have that
No
limit.
legal limit. No, you could say no
Yeah.
to them operating in our rights of way. And then they'd have to find some other way to do it. But there's currently a FCC challenge, if I'm understanding how that is working right, that would limit local government's ability to say no to such things. And we're part of the challenge to that rule. But at this time, you could say no.
Okay. More to come there.
Yep. Then we will wrap up the BoCC meeting, and that's that. Now we're going to move into, before we take a break, we'll go through the Board of Health draft agenda for the 11th. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shelley Slaughter, Director of Public Health and Social Services, and your Administrator of the Board of Health.
Lydia Hodgkinson, Clerk of the Board of Health.
Okay, thank you. Board of Health meeting will begin with the calling meeting to order, approving agenda and meeting minutes from both our January 14th regular meeting and January 28th special meeting. That's straightforward. We go to proclamations under number 2, Children's Dental Health Month.
Yes, so the first proclamation that we have for you today is in recognition of Children's Dental Health Month. And the presenter today will be Marianne O'Garo, our senior epidemiologist, and she will be joined by Karen Lewis of the Arcora Foundation, who is one of our funders who is supporting our Children's Dental Health Sealant program that our department is participating in. And also by Caroline Sedano, our Oral Health and Reproductive Maternal and Child Health Program Manager from Choice Regional Health Network. So they will be here to accept that proclamation and share more information about the importance of children's dental health and how important oral health is to the prevention of disease across the lifespan for kids.
Any questions on that?
No, sir.
Nope. No, sir.
Okay, we have a second proclamation, and it is American Heart Health Month.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Menzer. American Heart Health Month is every February across the nation, and many people, including those here today in the room, are wearing red in honor and recognition of the importance of Heart Health Month, particularly wearing red to raise awareness of women's heart health, which is cardiovascular disease and heart attacks are the #1 killer of women, and the symptoms often appear different to women. So that's why we're wearing red today. Today's proclamation will be introduced by Chris Hawkins, our program manager in our education and prevention program. And also, we are honored to have Director Kurt Harden of Emergency Services accept this proclamation and share information about the importance of CPR and preventing heart attacks and being aware of what we can do to respond, as well as work together to promote healthy lifestyles and encourage people to have healthy hearts.
Questions on that?
No, sir.
This is as close to blood red as I could get, so.
I'll change my tie at lunch. But
You
not
have
red.
you have red on your button, sir.
Yeah.
I see it.
Not sufficient.
Opportunity of the public to address Board of Health.
I am not aware of anyone coming to speak today, but we always welcome comments from the public on any health-related matters.
I wonder if somebody might come in, though, about the flood and water and some of the response, too. Be interesting to see.
Boil water notice. Questions? Who knows?
Yes.
Okay, so then 4 and 5 are kind of together at this point. We have the health officer's report and director's report.
Yes, so I will be sharing some information on the novel coronavirus 2019, providing the board as well as members of the public with some general information about our current situation with coronavirus, which I will just state for the record, Thurston County does not have any confirmed cases. There remains to be one confirmed case in the state of Washington, and approximately 15 throughout the United States and 40,554 worldwide as of this morning. So I'll provide some information and some prevention actions that people can take to protect themselves from any kind of infectious disease or viral illness. So I will show information about that, as well as our other investigation efforts in our CD team, as well as provide some information on other activities that we've been busy with at our department this last month, including the recent Nisqually flood response, which I reported on to you this morning about our public health response, the Percival Creek sewage spill that occurred over the weekend, a norovirus outbreak that we had, an update on Offutt Lake, which is the boil water notice has been rescinded, and so that is still open. I know you had inquired about that last week. And other activities that have been happening throughout our department. It's been a really busy time for us, and so I'll probably take a little bit more time today since we have a shorter agenda to be able to share that.
Do you have any, you just covered a lot, and maybe it slipped right by me, but I know over the weekend there was a pipe break, and I think
Yes.
Thurston County was working with Olympia in some regard.
Yes, so this occurred in the city of Olympia over Percival Creek. Due to the weather, a tree fell, broke a bridge and a sewer pipe. Sewage was released into Percival Creek, which then does flow down into Capitol Lake and into Bud Inlet. So our role in that was supporting City of Olympia in their response efforts to that and providing notice to the public and specifically posting notices at the site to warn people to stay out of the water.
And precisely where is that pipe located?
I cannot tell you exactly, just it's the footbridge that goes over Percival Creek, and I can't, without a map in front of
Okay.
me, hard to describe exactly where that is
Is
located.
that, is that over by the auto mall? That's Percival Creek that runs underneath that bridge, Chris?
I am not,
It is?
I am not
Yeah.
sure of
That is
the
Percival Creek.
precise
Percival Creek, yeah.
location, but I can
We can get
definitely
that
easily
information
get that
for you this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lives over by the auto mall.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Edwards.
Could you find out for us the amount of discharge that went into Percival Creek? And I think the best way to know that is how many gallons a minute or whatever flow through there, and then how long was that damaged before it was discovered?
So I'm going to pass it over to our Environmental Health Division Director, Art Starry, to answer all your questions about this.
All your questions.
All your questions.
And
And also just want to commend Art for his personal response to this, because he came into the office, he personally went out to the site, took photos, posted signs, handled all the communication with City of Olympia. So thank you, Art.
Thank you, Art, for doing that.
Didn't do a whole lot, but I did take the phone call, I guess.
And a shower.
So the City of Olympia estimates that about 30,000 gallons of sewage was spilled before they were able to divert the wastewater flow and basically bypass the section that broke. I believe they received a report Friday night that showed that, so the bridge that broke is actually what they use as a way to kind of get the sewer pipe and the water pipe across the creek. And so the bridge, the pedestrian bridge, is built over the top of this conveyance structure. And so they found out Friday night that there was something kind of wrong with the water pressure, because the water pipe is also strung underneath the pipe. And then Saturday morning, they went out and investigated when it was light and found out that the tree had fallen across the bridge and broke everything. And so within a very short period of time, once they were able to go out and confirm that, they were able to shut things down and divert them and then contact us. And so that's when we started to work with the PIO's office. So thank you, Brian, for notifying the public, and with our PIO folks, Gabby and Marianne O'Garo, and then put some signs up at the locations where folks might be tempted to go into the water. So that was what our response was. So I think things went pretty well. This was, an act of nature that, sometimes bad things happen, and that's what occurred in this particular case.
That was all untreated
Yeah, it was
sewage,
untreated
rawest
sewage.
of the raw sewage that you could get, right?
Yeah, it's the rawest of the raw sewage, and, so very unfortunate, but as opposed to sometimes where you hear about these things where there was operator errors or something that could have been avoided because someone made a mistake, this was Mother Nature putting a big maple tree, I think, or
That was a big tree.
Big tree across the bridge.
Yeah.
We had a similar discharge about a year ago in Tumwater or something. That was a malfunction of maintenance or something?
Yeah, so there was
Yeah.
one at the community college about a year ago, and that's something where the contractor they were building some new buildings, and the contractor basically didn't properly block off the sewer pipe from the old building before putting the new building online, and we found out about that the hard way.
And that again was substantially more.
That was a substantial flow.
wasn't it?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was big flow, and as things often seem to happen, they made the mistake like late Friday, and then over the weekend, people realized that something was wrong.
And then about 2 years ago, we had another pump failure in Tumwater, I think, that
They
did something
there was a
similar.
lift station that malfunctioned. There have been different things over time. I don't think maybe I could remember a lot of them, but there have been different instances over time where sometimes there've been maintenance issues, and then sometimes there's been acts of nature. So.
Thank you.
That was my question, was the volume.
Yeah.
But I'll just follow
Yeah, I
up
just
with
got
that.
that information late yesterday.
Thank you. But the pipe was whisking its stuff away towards lot?
It's
Supposedly.
basically, I think was taking it to a big pump station that's down there. I don't have a map that shows the exact flow of stuff, but it.
Oh, in that area
It
is a
was
pump
basically
station?
collecting the sewage from the neighborhood and then taking it down to a pump station, which would
Okay.
then take it down to lot.
All right, thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you,
Art.
And thanks for your response.
Department item is item 6, and there's one item, Thurston County Family Assistance Center.
So yes, we will have a presentation for you featuring Erica Catt, our Education and Outreach Specialist in our Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program, along with Stanley Phillips, who is a Senior Victim Advocate at our Thurston County Prosecuting Attorney's Office in the Crime Victims Advocacy Network. And they will be sharing information on our Thurston County Family Assistance Center program that was activated as part of ESF 8 and our role in public health in supporting the health and well-being of victims and those affected by specific incidences such as last year during the Nisqually train derailment and the Walmart shooting. So they'll be sharing information about how the community mobilizes and how we coordinate our response to provide support and resources to those in need.
Questions on that item?
Does that include the flood?
The
People traumatized kids by the flood and such?
The Thurston County Family Assistance Center has not been activated in this particular Nisqually flood. However, we are standing by to support any families or individuals affected by the Nisqually flood that may need additional support and ready to provide resources to them.
Thank
But
you.
at this time, not standing that up.
Then the Board of Health members can report on health-related activities, and we will move to adjournment. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you very much.
Shelley.
See you this
Thank
afternoon.
Now it's 10:20-ish. We're going to take a break, a 10-minute break, and we'll come back. Thank you. Okay, we're on? Thank you.
What I could probably
We're on now.
work with them is get a little bit of items which they went through.
We're on.
History, but not necessarily this afternoon.
Okay, welcome back. And welcome back. It's still February 11, 2020, and we're going to continue on with our agenda, although we're going to jump down. We're going to jump down and take Mary Ann first for pretrial services. Get you in that. You've been here all morning. Thank you, Mary Ann. Good morning.
Bring the microphone.
There you go.
Commissioners, I asked Mary Ann Clear, she's the Director of the Pretrial Services, to come and give, I know that you have been tracking some of the efforts the Pretrial Services is going through, but I think it's going to be an opportunity for to hear directly from the Director. I think it's a good point, and she's going to go over this, a one-pager. A good point just to have a check-in point with you, and again give you an update on some of the efforts and projects and programs that we're working on.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Mary Ann Clear, the Director for Pretrial Services, as Romero said. I do want to note that this is a draft document. We'll make some changes and have it posted on our Pretrial Services website soon, hopefully. As you're aware, the Pretrial Services Governing Board has an objective of keeping our jail resources dedicated for higher risk offenders, and individuals that are there, I think we're running about 47 to 48% of a pretrial population, meaning that those individuals are not yet convicted and may not be convicted. So they're still pretrial phase of their case. That's here in our Thurston County population. Nationally, I think there's 465,000 people held in jail before their trials every day, and the amount spent on that is about $14 billion. So those are our numbers that we have. Difficulties for people that are incarcerated long-term, they can lose their housing, lose their jobs, it impacts their family relationships. And recently, Thurston County was awarded as a recipient of a grant through the Arnold Ventures Foundation. We are one of 5 sites that was selected across the country. They are currently looking for additional sites, but we are one of the initial 5 that were selected as the research action site. So the Advancing Pretrial Policy and Research Project. We are spending 5 years, I think we have about 4.5 left, looking at our pretrial systems in both superior and district courts. So our entire criminal justice system pulling together, so superior court, district court, prosecuting attorney's office, public defense, pretrial services, City of Lacey, the police department, the sheriff's office, the jail. Romero is part of this, and we put together a vision of a fair and just pretrial system that protects our community. Our mission is to enhance public safety while simultaneously maximizing court appearance and pretrial release, and we are focusing on our values of collaboration, accountability, equity, fairness, and safety. And we have a lot of work ahead of us to look at our pretrial processes. We're mapping our systems for both superior court and district court, from our policing all the way through booking processes, our pretrial interviews and reports, first appearance, all the way through until the resolution of the cases. And that, again, is for both the courts and the jurisdictions involved. Our partners, and meaning our partners, the technical assistance that we're being provided with, that would be the researchers, Research Triangle Institute International. They have our data, and they are gathering other data from the state system, AOC, Administrative Office of the Courts, and Washington State Patrol, so that they can validate the public safety assessment tool. And we will determine if implementing that risk assessment tool here in our courts. That validation should be done around September, and we're looking at implementation by the end of the year. But there's a lot of work ahead of us between now and then in terms of the decision-making frameworks and the factors that go into that tool, and looking at the validation and how that works. But I just wanted to give you all an update today in terms of all of the collaboration and energy and efforts that have been put into thus far. Do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
As part of your gathering of information, will you be keeping track of what crimes individuals commit when they're out on pre-trial release or pre-conviction release? Any kind of a statistical information there? And what I'm specifically asking about is the safety of the community, of the whole intent of some bail process that might have kept someone in custody versus a more no bail process, which would release early, and consequently what kind of crimes those people convict are committing, I guess would be a better way to put that. I can see some benefit coming from certain cases, but I can see some detriment coming from maybe those cases that involve domestic violence, for an example, and where there's a lot of emotion involved. And so are we going to try and track the differences, or maybe what those individuals do when they are out in the community pending type of trial? Was there any mechanism or ability to capture that information?
Yes, we are looking at tracking those charges and the information, especially felony versus misdemeanor, and looking at domestic violence. Domestic violence is an area of interest to several members that are participating as the partners that I mentioned, our community partners. And we've been talking with the Research Triangle Institute International to let them know that domestic violence is important in our community, and that's a factor that we'd like to look at as they are validating.
At what point might we get information feedback as you move forward with observing those? I mean, is it like we're going to have a 5-year project, so I mean, is it going to be like every 6 months we get a little piece of, hey, this is working pretty good, or no, this isn't working in this area, but it is over here in this area?
Well, the initial validation won't be done until, it's anticipated to not be done until September. So if we don't even implement until towards the end of the year, it's...
So we might hear something by the end of the year.
It will be a slower process, but the benefit of having a slower process is that then we know that we're taking in all of the information and we're being a little bit more methodical about it rather than knee-jerk, and that's important.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So this morning at Innovative Justice meeting, they reported on there was some statement by some group that basically said that, risk tools shouldn't be used at all in pretrial bail decision. So we didn't get into like the why or what that statement was about. This handout, for example, on the back says that research shows that risk assessment tool does not exacerbate racial disparity. So I'm wondering what the argument is against using them altogether. And the prosecutor kind of reported on it and said that's probably not where we were headed necessarily, even though there are I guess the Arnold Ventures put out a response statement saying we understand the concerns and the arguments being made, but I was hoping maybe you could flesh that argument out just so the board could hear what that argument is.
Yes, that was a statement that was put out late Friday by a group. And the Pretrial Justice Institute, in their position statement, there wasn't data that was incorporated into that statement. It's only Tuesday, so it's still pretty early. As part of the pretrial executive network, we've been working with NAPSA, the National Association for Pretrial Service Agencies, and they will be issuing a statement. They're not changing their position on risk assessments, that validated risk assessment tools can be helpful and useful, which that's what we're doing as part of this APPR process. Is we're validating the risk assessment tool before we implement it so that we can look at it, and then we'll continue to validate it through this process. So we are, that's part of my answer to Commissioner Edwards, is that we're being methodical about this, and we're looking at the data and having data-driven policies, and having a risk assessment tool as your only piece of information for decisions is not what was recommended or is not recommended, but it could be only one piece. And other jurisdictions who have implemented this specific tool that we are looking at have reduced racial disparities. For example, Yakima County implemented this, and I don't have the specific number off the top of my head, but it was around 22%, I believe. And the PSA does have specific several areas where they have been implemented and been shown to reduce racial disparities because they don't involve interviews, and so it's more objective. But that's something that we'll be looking at here.
So it is racial disparity issues that is why the Pretrial Justice Institute is making that argument, non-data-driven argument?
That's one of their concerns. Risk assessment tools and the algorithms that go into them, they can be controversial.
Because we've heard, I mean, back when we were talking about it, I think when we were on that panel with that criminal justice class at St. Martin's, I think it was the teacher that piped up and said there was evidence, like bad risk tools can be gender biased, can have all sorts of different biases. It's not just about race. That's why I'm asking what the particular concern was, because a bad risk tool can really not work in a number of different regards.
Yes.
Not only racial elements.
Yes, but that's why the validation piece is so important, is so that you have data, and that what you're using is data informed, so that way you know what you're doing. But the risk assessments can be controversial. So part of this project, it's important that we are working with the researchers so that we have our data, and if our data shows that it's not working, then we'll address that.
My other comment, kind of response to Commissioner Edwards' concern, is that the analysis of risk to the community has to go beyond just like recidivism rate, because what I've always contended is if someone's likely to recommit an offense, but it's a lower sentencing range, 3 to 6 months or something. It's like if you hold someone, so if you're holding someone in jail because you're worried about them recommitting the offense that they're charged with, and the sentencing range for that is, in my hypothetical, 3 to 6 months. It's like if they're guilty, they can just do that in 3 months. Like you're under at a certain point, maybe it's a year or less. You're really not, the risk of recidivism during the pretrial phase significantly dwindles in terms to the risk to the overall risk to the community, because holding someone, sentencing them, they're just going to have the opportunity to commit the same crime again in a very short period of time. And that is something that is present and factors into whether it's worth the cost of, whether that risk is worth the cost of pretrial incarceration versus someone, if somebody's looking at a 5-year sentence, then that's a much higher consideration. And I'm hoping that our analysis will go to that level of when we're actually trying to evaluate this trade-off that we're making between, pretrial release and, propensity to recommit offenses
Right. One of the benefits of this project is that we are looking at our entire pretrial system, and we'll be able to look at it from all of the pieces of arrest all the way through the end of the case, and that all of the players are at the table. And so as we map our systems and look at the research and the evidence for what best practices are, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do here.
Okay. Just one on content, and then I have a question on some of the process. I'm looking at the bottom of the second page. The heading is Understanding Judicial Discretion and Pretrial Decisions. Oh, wait, do you catch up? Bottom of page 3, I guess it is.
Yes.
Okay. So when I read that, Understanding Judicial Discretion and Pretrial Decisions, the first thing says no. I thought, well, where's the question? Because give me the answer, no. I see it's supposed to be in parcel with the next sentence, no comma, they do not, but it just says no. I thought, where's the question? So my question is, the judicial discretion, isn't it just the judge that has the decision-making authority on release?
Correct. Again, I do want to stress that this is...
I know it's a draft.
This is a draft.
I appreciate that.
And, yes, the judicial officer does have the discretion for setting conditions of release.
Okay.
And there is no risk assessment tool that dictates their decision. The judicial officer, it's just a piece of information that plays into that decision, and only one piece.
And I don't know how these risk assessment tools have changed over the years, but I was on the DMIO state board for a while, years ago, and they did a risk assessment deciding when someone would be a dangerous mentally ill offender, when they'd be released from Western State and such. Very interesting. And I don't know how that matrix, but that was through the University of Washington.
And one of the other things, the benefits of this is that it's important for us to utilize a risk assessment tool that meets our business needs for having a specific tool for a pretrial population that focuses on not post-conviction. And so gives us information about appearing for court and risk of committing crimes while out on pretrial release and risk of violent crimes. So public safety that Commissioner Edwards was referring to earlier.
Yeah, and some of these that were being released from Western State, they being UW, were strong in addressing any racial disparity and some other discriminatory type information. So I don't know if that's changed over the years, but anyway, just I've said it. I'm looking at the back page, Marianne, initiative members, and I see these are all players that are involved in district court and such. Tumwater uses don't they use pretrial as well?
They do, but they don't use pretrial services, and they are involved with the mapping for the district court process, but they are not involved in as heavily as to be listed as a partner, such as meeting with us regularly, but they are involved with the district court process.
Okay.
So they'll be mapping, but they won't be committed to the pretrial services portion, because pretrial services does not have the resources to expand to district court.
Okay, thank you. Extend my question any further?
Just a comment. I mean, the benefits of pretrial release, it's not really spelled out in here, but as a defense lawyer, I always have clients who maybe they got held because it took them a while to make bail, or and then and then we were ultimately filed a motion. Their case was dismissed, went to trial, and my clients would always invariably ask me, "Do I get paid for the days that I had to spend in custody?" Illegitimately, in their understandable point of view, and the answer was always no. And there'd always seem to be, there's a human cost to being having your liberty taken away before it's actually been proven that it's justified. So.
All right. Thank you. That's it?
Maybe just one more thing. I don't know as it really says that in here, but if this is successful, it could have a dramatic effect on our budget by reducing jail population, in the end, and jail construction and everything, consistent with that. I think it's always worth getting the facts.
It will be successful, Commissioner.
There you go.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Yeah, it was not here. So let's go ahead and start, take next cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Good morning.
This is just a brief update on some of the efforts Dennis Osorio, the IT Department Director, is doing to address cybersecurity. So do you send that information?
I'm sorry? Yes, I sent it. I have some copies though.
Okay,
If
so-
you need those as well.
So it's right here, and it's stated on information technology. So he's going to go over that.
Good morning, Dennis Osorio, IT Department, IT Director. So I'll just give a little background on what this is about. As Romero said, this is a cybersecurity update. The background, the county, one of the biggest issues in every organization is raising awareness around IT security risks. That goes both through security awareness training, as well as what we're currently doing is internal phishing campaigns. In 2019, the Board of Commissioners approved a budget change request to support improving IT security. After reviewing security risk areas, IT prioritized obtaining a security program which addresses both these areas. So we refreshed our security awareness training as well as got us a new tool set so where we could perform internal testing of all employees. The software package that we chose to go with was KnowBe4, and this was purchased late 2019, and it was also partially grant funded, but we will continue on with the ongoing costs of it. So if you go down a bit more, I guess the big focus here is the phishing scams, and that's been in the news. Everybody knows about this, both from a personal perspective as well as an organizational perspective. We've now implemented KnowBe4 training. Without getting into all the numbers, we took a baseline, so we've sent out, I think it was 1,150 emails to all county staff. And if you go to the attachment portion, you can see what that simulated phishing email looks like. It looks very legitimate. It looks like a UPS email. This is to give everyone, it's supposed to trick everyone, essentially. And we want to eventually raise that awareness so people are providing scrutiny when they're clicking on emails and not having the, risking county assets. So this was the actual email that was sent out to everyone. During the baseline, if you go to the next example, the baseline, we did not prompt anybody for training at this point because we were just getting a baseline of the county, which kind of seems who would click on stuff. That's essentially our starting point. In the future, when we send these out and somebody clicks on one of these emails, they'll get something like this, which lets them know, oops, you clicked on a wrong message. Here's immediate remedial training, essentially. We don't want this to be feared for everyone. This is an opportunity for everybody to understand what these actual emails look like and then get training. And it actually goes through in the body of what it is. It points out what this email is and where to look for possible issues in the future so you could scrutinize emails a bit more and not just click on stuff. Often people get this, such as you see the first one from UPS, even though they're not expecting a package, they still click on it, right? This both happens personal and professional. And then going into the last attachment, this is just a portion of our security awareness training now that we have here at the county. We're working with HR to put this into LMS and to get this sent out to everyone. This meets multiple audit findings that we need to provide security training every year. But in this, we also have HIPAA training, which is something else that we're somewhat kicking off. So we'll be able to provide a much more robust training, IT security training plan for everybody within the county. Going back to the write-up, I know this isn't necessarily a decision, but I just wanted to put some pros and cons. Obviously, some pros for providing security training for all county staff ensures everyone understands what the risks are and lets us meet audit requirements. Without the proper training, increased vulnerability, increased risk. And that's essentially the same as internal phishing campaigns. Something that I'd like to point out specifically around this, this spans both internal, at work and outside of work. So as people get more aware of this, this will not only help them at work, but this helps everybody as everything's digital now. Everything's run through email. So not only are these phishing campaigns done through organizations, they're done to personal finances as well. So
I'll be taking this home.
absolutely. So with that, I'd like to open up. Is there any specific questions about the Know Before Training, phishing campaign, or anything?
I do, but you go ahead. Do you have
No,
any-
I'm good.
Do you have any questions? No. Oh, okay, good. Dennis, looking at the immediate explanation, you said if somebody clicks on it, they immediately are prompted, uh-oh, and they're directed to training or retraining or orientation. What is it?
Yes, it'll be a training program. One of the ones that's somewhat in here, they'll get prompted on this to let them know where they clicked on it, and then as they, so if somebody, and we can kind of set up a tree on that, so if somebody continues to click on it, they'll get more training, rather than now they maybe have to take a 5-minute, go through a 5-minute course or something.
So are they, until they take that training, are they locked out then? They have to take the
No,
training and complete it before they can move on and do it?
We didn't come in and put in any hard lines, because I understand somebody could be, we don't want to impact operations too much and make this mandate, where they can't even do their job, but
But it's not even like a trigger, like after 3 clicks, we're unplugging your computer?
well,
Cyber
no,
defense
but
camp.
as we get more numbers and reports, we will be getting these out to all office and department heads, and if obviously repeat offenders, we could work with them to set up more of a
Okay.
program. What I want to make sure is that this isn't disciplinary by any means. It's awareness, and I don't want people to be scared of this. It's a learning experience. It's educational, and they should look at it as so.
And I agree, it shouldn't be disciplinary, and I want them to learn, because they shouldn't be clicking on this multiple times. So this does
Exactly.
look legitimate.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes.
You going to be assigning demerits, or how are you keeping track?
No. Like I said, we'll be briefing, we briefed at the Cybersecurity Task Force, and then we'll be setting up reports that all department heads can then pull, and just kind of see where they're at, and how they're making progress, and how the county's making progress in general.
Okay.
Robin?
Just out of curiosity, what percentage of people clicked on the
We didn't get too much, if I may,
Yeah,
because we didn't want to explore our.
Yeah, so there's some
understand.
operational security
Yeah.
portions of that, so we don't want to get too much into the numbers, but we were below the standard on a baseline,
there you go.
So, and
that
we can
was-
give you the numbers as an
Below the
aside, not
standard,
necessarily in the
meaning that's
public.
bad?
No,
Thank
below
you.
the standard
Excellent.
amount of
Don't
people who
expose
click on it
anything.
for the baseline, our numbers were
That's
below
good.
that, yes, so
Okay.
we were good in that, so.
Okay.
And this is really a clear and present danger in a way. Benton County was scammed just a couple of weeks ago with thousands, tens of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
750,000.
750, yes.
And it's important to have a rat nanny, but we have to be making sure people are getting that training and adhering to it.
Yeah, I think there's the balance on, right, we want scrutiny, but we don't want people to get so stuck that they can't even perform their duties.
Right.
So we need that balance, that we're giving them the tools that they could perform the scrutiny correctly and still do their job.
Anything?
One more thing. By any chance, are we covered by any kind of insurance, say something similar to Benton County happened? So does risk cover some of that?
Yes, there is a cybersecurity risk insurance. that-
And I suppose the more
upgraded it.
training you commit to and perform with staff, do we get a better rate once you get a A+ on your, you don't have any more demerits? or-
I don't know how the rate
I
works
think
out.
is the level of impact, I think is what the rates are.
All right, I think you'd need to talk to Tammy Devlin.
Yes. Okay, Tammy Devlin would be the
Well,
one.
I wonder if that shouldn't be discussed as far as, because I think it's going to be a
I believe
coming
you
trend.
represent the
I
county
am.
on the
And I have
risk pool.
I have a risk pool meeting
There
coming
you
up,
go.
so I'll be bringing this up.
And the risk pool, if I understand right, only offers very limited cybersecurity. What the board has authorized is expanding and purchasing a separate
Extra,
policy specifically on cybersecurity. So we have begun that this year.
I thought maybe we'd get a better rate once we get all of our training
It's a
done.
great idea, you know,
Okay.
something like, I have no auto accidents, I should get a better rate.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Safe
where I
driving
was going.
discount.
Anything on that?
My kindergarten teacher used to make us pin a picture of a crying baby on our chest, so it's something to think about.
Something.
That explains a lot.
I thought you were going to be suggesting a zapper.
Dennis, thank you very kindly.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to La Bonita Bomar, talking about proclamations and awards.
Yes. The first on our list is the reappointment.
Can you keep that in my
for the
risk
Board of
file?
Equalization. Robert Hastings and we talked about this last week. And so we said we needed a little bit more time.
Is that microphone on? I think it is, yeah. Just want to make sure.
Bonita Bomar. We have, first up is some reappointments for the Board of Equalization. Robert Hastings and Lee Rudy. These members have, Robert Hastings has been on the board since 2017, and Lee Rudy was filling an unexpired term and was appointed August of 2019.
Okay.
I'm ready to go forward.
Are you? Are you?
We have 2 reappointments and no pending applications.
That is correct.
And there's never been any concerns or,
Staff is recommending the reappointments of these 2 members.
okay.
I'd just comment, I think Mr. Hastings might be chair of the board right now. So I'm fine.
Okay.
That's
I'm
fine.
okay with
Seems
them
to be
both.
everything's going well.
Okay.
Thumbs up on both? Okay.
For the 2 of them? The 2 of them?
Yeah.
I will have that on the agenda the 25th.
All right. TST.
Today, Carrie Hennon is going to talk about the TST Advisory Board and the vacancies. And in your packet, you will see that she has applications and an outline of the TST.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Hennon, Public Health and Social Services. As you might recall, last year this was really complicated because we amended the county code, changed the size of the committee, and I'm hoping this will be much more straightforward this year. So as La Bonita mentioned, there's sort of a summary of where we are. The advisory committee currently has 9 members, the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee. And 2 of those members have terms that are expiring this March. So we did some publicity in January, invited applications. We publicized that to partners, stakeholders, public health and social services, social media accounts. We received 3 applications, and as I said, we have 2 upcoming vacancies. So there's sort of a summary of the names of the folks who applied toward the bottom of this overview sheet. And then I worked with a couple current members of the committee to review those. As it turned out, of those 3 applications, one of them really didn't respond to most of the questions on the application, so that one was sort of ruled out by our review group as being relatively non-responsive. And then the
That
other
one that says limited information?
Yes, yes, and I think you also have copies of the application. So she only answered one of the 5 or 6 questions we have on the application. The other 2 applicants both brought, kind of some new and different perspectives to the committee. So I think the existing committee members felt that if you choose to appoint them, they would be valuable additions. Just as a reminder, what we did do with the county code last year, it now says the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee should have no fewer than 7 members and no more than 9 members. So you could choose not to appoint anyone, or 1 person, or 2 people. So the 2 members who did submit complete applications, you have their materials here, and the group felt they would be good additions.
The 2 people that are expiring are ready to move on.
They
Yes.
don't want
They're-
reappointment?
So they're not
Correct.
seeking?
They're not
reappoint-
seeking reappointment.
Okay.
'Cause Jim has been there since the inception.
Yes.
So there's a lot of
I think he has just
knowledge
about a
there.
perfect attendance record, but he's
Yeah.
involved in lots of things and is
Okay.
ready to step
He's a good
aside,
guy.
yeah.
So I personally am ready to move on with them, but it's under my seatmates.
The top two there, that's fine with me.
Top two.
When you say top two, I
The,
thought
Ms.
Laura
Priscilla,
was,
with Thompson and Terry?
This one right here, Stephen Thompson and Priscilla.
oh yeah, you're looking at a
Terry.
different page, but we've decided that the one that hasn't responded gets scratched.
Yeah, so it'd be on this sheet, it's the bottom two.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, good.
So,
Okay.
okay, we'll move on, those two, okay,
Good.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for waiting.
Sure.
Thank you, Carrie.
So do we put that on today or at a?
The 25th.
Thank you.
Fair Board.
Yes, the Fair Board. Staff of the Fair Board has agreed to support Jan Gillingham as an appointment.
Okay, good. Yay.
Yes. They have their meeting and staff is recommending appointment.
Good. I've been supporting her since her application came in months ago. Good. So I'm okay with that, I'm sorry.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Again, that will be on the 25th as well.
Yeah, there's no meeting next week.
Correct. Agricultural Advisory Committee, Mr. Watson has been notified to attend the February 20th meeting of the Agricultural Advisory Committee, so I will need to wait till the next time around and bring it forward to let you know what the committee has decided.
Okay. Anything on that? Is that all
No,
right?
sir.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Other than that, right at this time, I have no other applications pending.
Okay. Good, that takes care of that then.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Proclamations and awards, we didn't have any?
No, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner, for your consideration, could you move to the briefing of public hearing decisions pending? I think staff is waiting, been waiting. I think we have members of the public waiting for that as well.
Certainly. We're very flexible, aren't we?
For your consideration.
Yes, okay. Please then, Historic Commission?
Yes, the Historic Commission, you received a briefing from staff back in January 30th as a result of how the books will be distributed, the historic books. You had a proposal, a couple of options presented to you. One that was given to the Olympia Historical Society, and the other one perhaps given to the City of Lacey Museum, all 465 copies, and perhaps a hybrid in which both can benefit from that. The staff presented to you the Olympia Historical Society came somewhat of a number one as a main recommendation, and you ask questions whether within the contract they can be assured if the Lacey Museum can receive some copies of this book. So I think those are the pending questions that you had. Staff is here to answer those questions at this point.
Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. I'll pass the mic over to Jeremy Davis, who has been leading the charge on this effort and has the answers to those questions, but wanted to again acknowledge and appreciate the hard work of the volunteers on the Historic Commission to get this big project pushed this far forward, and thank you for the support from the commissioners. So here's Jeremy Davis to answer the questions that were enumerated by the county manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Davis,
Morning.
Thurston County CPED. Thanks for having me here today. So at the end of the briefing on January 30th, the Commissioner had a couple questions, as County Manager reiterated this morning. And so staff approached the Olympia Historical Society, and as they expressed in their original grant application, they're ready and willing to work with any groups who want to distribute and sell the book. And Shanna reiterated that to us via email and also via telephone over the last week or so. We do want to note that we did also have a discussion with legal on whether or not we could or should actually include a specific provision in their contract allocating a specific number in the Olympia Historical Society contract, and the recommendation that if the board desires to go that direction is that we should do 2 separate grant awards and allocate the books accordingly. If we were to go down the pathway of doing 2 different grant awards, we may have to go and meet with both the City of Lacey and the Olympia Historical Society to take another look at their initial scope and their grant applications to ensure that our allocation would suffice for what they're proposing, or if they need to adjust their proposal at all. At this time, staff is recommending that the board move forward with the Historic Commission's recommendation and just do 1 grant award. Olympia Historical Society has maintain their ready and willingness to work with any and all groups on distributing that book and making sure that all of those books, those folks that do want to sell the book, receive those to sell.
So, and the questions on that, so essentially it's 2 paths. Yes, we could be more specific on the number of books that are set aside for the Lacey group, but to do that requires going back and formalizing the grant process again. So stepping back to do it in a formal way is the recommendation from legal counsel. The other option, which staff has just said that they recommend, is to take the recommendation of the Historic Commission, accept that the Olympia Historical Society will work with the Lacey Group and provide them the books as well. So either keep going forward on the path as recommended by the Historic Commission, or back up and redo 2 different contracts to get more specific on the actual amounts.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I guess I'm ready to move forward myself with the recommendation from the Historical Society.
I would point out that the Historic Commission recommendation was not a unanimous recommendation, but I do not want this to be more complicated than it needs to be, so I'm prepared to accept staff direction.
Going the separate paths that you just kind of described, does that take out the con in number 2? Option number 2, the con is it does not clearly give Thurston County Historical Society distribution process. Does it address that?
In which option?
In option number 2, the con does not clearly give Thurston County Historic Commission the ability to help in the distribution.
No, actually, with the options that were expressed in the briefing, option number 1 was to go with the Olympia Historical Society, which is the Historic Commission's recommendation. So that particular con wouldn't necessarily apply.
It was the application of the Olympia Historical Society clearly stated.
Yeah.
And the Lacey application did not.
Okay.
Can you speak out loud, please?
So that's just in reference to the application that was provided. The Olympia Historical Society specifically called out in their application that they'd work with the Historic Commission. Lacey did not clearly call that out, but we presume that they would work with us as well.
Yes.
Okay. And staff is, your recommendation is option 3?
There's option 1.
Because it gives the flexibility,
Option
number 1.
1. Option 3 requires a lot more work. That's going
Correct.
back and somewhat open up the grant again.
Oh, that's the
process.
grant open, okay.
And I would also say Commissioner Mintzer's note that the vote wasn't unanimous from the Historic Commission. Fully thank you for pointing that out and recognizing that. There was a robust discussion within the commission on the vote that came out, and so you're good for pointing that out, and we're respecting the vote of the entire board, Historic Commission, excuse me.
Do I still have the floor?
You're the boss.
No. And option number 1, from what I understand, this is Lacey Historical Society brought this forward.
Option number 1?
1 is Olympia.
I know, I understand that, but I think what brought this to the forefront was Lacey's interest in the book distribution, because it was locked up and they wanted the books sent out. And they wanted to take these books and distribute them, didn't they?
The entire grant is to distribute the books, and
Correct.
option 1 is the application from the Olympia Historical Society.
Yep.
And so there is no locking up of the books. All of the books will be distributed throughout the
I get
community.
that. What I'm asking though is Lacey, I thought Lacey wanted the books distributed, they weren't being distributed. Am I confusing that with another Lacey historical book that they wanted to have released and such?
You could be referring maybe to the journal, but what, we received 2 applications, one from the Olympia Historical Society and one from the Lacey Museum. And that's what we know is the facts that we have.
That was for the journal then?
Again, unclear about what you might be referring to. What we know is the 2 applications that we received is the Olympia Historical Society for
Okay, it must be the journal.
I think the conversation that you had, or the comments that you had was related to the Lacey Museum's request for getting all the books. And I recall the questions were, the proceeds, where will go? It will go to the city of Lacey, or it will go to another historical
So it was this book, and it was
So
the
it's
Lacey
this book, but the city of Lacey applied for the books.
Okay.
They went through the review, and the Historic Commission is providing a recommendation for you to award all the books to the Olympia Historical Society.
And Olympia Historical Society will then provide the books to any other organization that wants those, including the Lacey Museum.
Without committing to a specific number.
Thank you.
Right, or number, or they would be donated or given to that entity or sold to them?
At cost, they must be sold to any entity. And then that sub-entity can put whatever price they would like to market that book and retail it as their organization.
Okay, because in my head, I'm thinking Lacey wanted us to move on this and get this thing done, but now Lacey, if we go with option 1, Lacey's out of the picture. Unless they buy books from Olympia.
Well, Lacey has not been, the city of Lacey has not been...
Not the city of, no.
No, but certainly their intent or their desire to receive the books is through the application.
Okay.
But I don't think the city of Lacey has come directly and stated they want the books.
No, not the city of Lacey. I chatted with Ken Balsley months ago about when you get these books out, what's the process? Unless it was the journal. But I don't think it was the journal. I think it was this book.
No, this came up in my podcast with Kim Balsley.
Okay, but looking at this option, Lacey, the Lacey Historical Society wanted it, but now it's going to go to distribute and such, or sell, but now it's going to potentially, option number 1, to go to Olympia. What am I not getting?
Well, that's the recommendation. So there were 2 applications.
Yes.
One for the distribution of all books. One is for the Olympia Historical Society, and the other application was received by the Lacey Museum. 2 different applications. Yes. The 2 applications included the distribution of all books by each of those 2 jurisdictions or outfits. The Historic Commission went through the process of seeing the merits of those 2 applications, and they determined that perhaps the Olympia Historical Society is the winner of this process in a way and they recommended for you to award the 450 some books to the Olympia Historic Society. With the caveat, this outfit will make those books available not just to the Lacey Museum, but to any other organization who would like to access to it. Did I answer your question? Probably.
You did, you helped, because I understand the vetting process, but the con of option 1 says the city of Lacey would not have the opportunity to be granted the books. That's the total books. Is that what that means? They still have opportunity to get books.
Yes.
Just not a guaranteed number, but they'd have to apply then to Olympia.
They'd have to purchase. That's what it says.
They have to purchase them from
That's the con.
Olympia Historic.
Is the word granting is the con.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, you had to, go ahead.
Well, you're just piggybacking off your question. So Lacey buys at cost, sells for whatever they want, and they make that amount. Olympia, the Historic Commission, gets the books, sells them at some retail price, and they keep the whole amount because they've been granted the book. Is that what we're talking about?
Yep. That's pretty much it.
Essentially, yes, sir, that would be the case. If Olympia Historical Society sold the books directly at the agreed upon price, then yes, they would keep 100% of the proceeds. If they sell them to the city of Lacey for Lacey to retail them, they would pick another wholesale price in order for Lacey to render a profit off of those to use towards their activities. And the profit would be to use towards historic activities.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a comment?
I'm ready to go. Option 1. For me.
I'm good with, I mean, to me, I struggled the last meeting because it really felt kind of like 6 to 1, half to the other. I'm sure both groups could do a good job. I didn't have enough information to really choose, so I'm just kind of relying on the recommendation of the Historic Commission itself because they spent more time with it. That's kind of where I'm at.
We're ready.
So I'm going to go with option 1.
Okay, option 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much for your help. County Manager?
Yeah, the next item on your agenda is the 2020 docketing process. You receive a briefing, what I thought was a very good briefing related to the process itself. Jennifer and Josh did a fantastic job, as well as where's Maya?
She had the lead.
Okay. So the decision for you today is not necessarily related to any specific items included on the docket. That is not part of your decision process today. The decision is needed for you today whether you like to provide staff direction to begin the 20-day public comment based on all the items it was presented to you this past February 6th. And as a result of the 20-day public comment, staff will come back, we'll give you a feedback in terms of what they have received, and then we'll start getting into the process to how you will exercise your legislative authority to determine what elements you would like to include in the final. You like to elaborate, and staff is here to answer any questions.
Thank you for the kudos to the staff. Jennifer Davis did, I agree, a great job on that presentation in outlining, again, the role of community planning and economic development as the facilitator of the conversation, and that this is that first step in receiving the public comment. One of the things I think that Jennifer mentioned previously that's important to remember is all of the comments that we've already received leading up to this point will be rolled into whatever 20-day comment period comes next. So know that people don't have to resubmit comments if they've already provided them. But just recognizing, again, this is that first step in the process. And I'll hand it over to Jennifer Davis to answer any questions.
I'm here to answer questions. I think it's been set up really well.
I have no question.
Do you have questions?
Nope.
I don't either.
So
Do you?
do I hear you providing a direction to begin the 20-day public process?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Wonderful. We'll have that notice of docket availability published and widely distributed to our interested parties within about a week.
Perfect, okay.
Thank you.
That ball's rolling downhill. Here we go. Or uphill.
Thank you.
PIOs, are we
Figure that now. Let's move up to, PIO. Now kind of hit the pause. Now we play. PIO check-in. Thank you, folks, for coming.
Thank you for your patience.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. One quick update, just a reminder that this room is going to be out of commission next week because they're going to be
No pun
updating
intended.
the audio and visual. So
Where are we gonna agenda set?
agenda setting is going to be in
Downstairs?
152.
Yeah.
Downstairs.
Yes. They're also going to be updating room 152, but that won't be until Thursday and Friday. So there will be some updates made downstairs as well. We will not be live streaming, I don't think, next Tuesday morning. They're going to try and set up the travel live stream option, but if that doesn't work, then we'll record it and have agenda setting available that afternoon. So we do have a plan in place. They'll just bring their cameras and they'll be recording downstairs. TC Media will be. So if it's not available tomorrow or Tuesday morning, it will be by that afternoon.
Was this just the planets aligning, or was it intentionally done because there's no BoCC next Tuesday?
It was intentional that we
Perfect.
chose next week.
Perfect, that works out
Yeah.
great.
They're going to actually start on Monday, I believe. So
Okay.
even when we're not here, the work will get started.
Beautiful. And just 2 days, they expect?
Another week.
A week, you said, I
Yeah,
missed it,
yeah,
okay.
so this room won't be available the whole week, and then 152 and 152 won't be Thursday or Friday.
Okay,
So we have that all scheduled,
very good.
yes.
And also to the extent, I'm sure that, and our assistants will know, any scheduled briefings that we have in here, or meetings that I might have, or anybody else might have, not all three of us, those people will be noticed coming in from out of the county to go downstairs.
Amy's already done all of that, she's taken care of it.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Yep. And then Thursday through now, still 2 words, media response. From waking up to going to sleep, either Brian or I have been the ECC activation, media response, updating our homepage, monitoring, updating social media. Between the two of us, we probably have taken about 50 calls from the media in the last 5 days. And also the Percival Creek, Brian helped public health respond to that on Saturday. And so we've been quite busy the last 5 days or so. So hopefully we got good information out, and the reporters were very interested in what was going on, and were very responsive to getting information out to our public through their channels. So it was a really good response in my humble opinion.
Very good.
That's all I have for you.
You have anything, any comments?
Good. Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you. I was very impressed also with the attention that you and Brian gave to all those issues. There were a lot of issues came up on Friday alone.
Yeah.
There's one right after the other.
When is our commissioner roundtable coming out?
It was slated for last Friday, but we decided to hold off on it until probably tomorrow. So it's ready to go out. We just wanted to give the citizens opportunity to focus on
Flooding?
the flood that was happening, and provide them with information and have that be our channels at this point. But since it's calmed down a little bit, tomorrow is when
It's all edited and-
It's all good to go. It's ready to go. We'll post it tomorrow.
All right.
It was very well done. Good job, guys.
But you still have more work to do regarding the flood and information going out in the boil water, all that type of
Yes.
stuff still, but not as intense as it was.
Not as intense, no.
Beautiful. You
Yeah,
guys did a
so
great job.
we're still responding to emergency management as much as they need us for getting information out to the public.
Yeah, a good job on the press releases.
And I believe Public Works and Brian are going to be door by door hanging additional information.
Yeah, so they're working on a door hanger for the debris management aspect of it. They have a meeting this afternoon, get that finalized, and hopefully start getting out and putting door hangers up and helping people.
They being
with
the
debris.
sheriff, or who's doing?
Public Works.
Public Works, okay, good. Not you and Brian?
No.
Good, okay. Good, thank you. Legislative update.
Yeah, Commissioner, going to go through this report. Let me begin by giving you some key dates. Last Friday was the cutoff of policy bills to be out of policy committees of the House of Origin. February 11th today is the cutoff for fiscal bills to be out of fiscal committees in their House of Origin. The February 19th, that's the cutoff of bills to clear the House of Origin. And February 28th, cutoff of policy bills to be out of policy committees in the opposite House. And by March 6th, cutoff of fiscal bills to be out of fiscal committees in the opposite House. And at that point, it will move into the floor for final voting. So there is still a few bills that I'd like to highlight for you. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the number of bills will be diminished, and I will give you an update as to where they are, whether they're dead or continue to have legs within the process. So I'm going to start on page number 7 of this report. And the first bill that I'd like to highlight for you is House Bill 2156. 2156.
2156?
2186, I'm
There we
sorry.
go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is related concerning the debris escaping from vehicles on public highways. As you know, the state has a law in which any vehicles that don't have secure loading or cover debris while they transport in state highways, they can be fined if they violate those regulations. This particular bill extends that to all public roadways, including county roadways. So it just expands what we've seen. So it requires any vehicles operating on paved public highway in carrying loose matter to use cover if the vehicle is so equipped, and this will take place by January 1st, 2022.
Do you have that bill in front of you?
Yeah. It's,
the reason I ask is, and it may not have it, but there was, we should have it. As I recall, the controversy surrounding this bill was it exempted, like commercial, exempted something, and that's what some of the controversy was. I mean, a pickup truck would have to cover it,
yeah,
but a commercial load wouldn't have to on a county road or something.
I was going to go through what
All right.
the gist. So it requires vehicles operating on a paved public highway on carrying loose matters to be covered beginning also July 1st, provides exemptions for public entities and the contractors working for them when performing certain maintenance functions or performing operations in a work zone close to the public. So construction activities are exempt from this.
Where
that's what
nails
you're
and rocks
referring
and
to.
debris come from.
Yeah.
It exempts them.
Yeah. So again, my suggestion, my recommendation is for you to support this bill, but whatever you'd like to do.
I do have a question on that. Did you say in areas close to the public?
So
what about transporting from a gravel pit to a paving job? What's that entail then? There's no exemption for that? All
So
loads-
let me read the full exemption for you.
Because currently commercial, they have to cover their load.
Well,
So I didn't understand why there was an exemption for this piece, rather than just adding.
Well, I can
all
understand it at the zone, at the construction site where the public's not there. I'm just questioning about, we do a lot of hauling when we're upgrading our roads.
Yeah, the exception is for public entities, that will be the county, and the contractor working for a public
Right,
entity.
right.
Okay.
When performing certain maintenance functions.
Right.
Is not construction, it's
I
maintenance.
thought you said within the closed area or something.
Yeah, or performing operations in a work zone.
Or it's
Yeah,
either or. Okay.
Yeah, operations when the work zone that is closed to the public.
So on the way there or
Yeah.
closed to the public. Good enough, that's all I was concerned.
Okay.
So I'm just going to make a standing statement that unless it's of acute concern to the county or it's just crystal clear to me, I'm going to vote to stay neutral, and this one doesn't meet either of those criteria, so I'm voting neutral. I don't want to take a position on every bill in front of the state legislature that has any tangential relation to county, which is that because that's every bill. So I'm voting neutral on this one.
I think I'm in support of it.
Yeah, I'll go neutral. Because I just don't.
You're going neutral?
I'm going neutral.
Yeah, well,
And maybe for just a bit different reason. I just don't see it as being equitable, unless I'm completely missing it. But I have time to come into support. I just don't right now.
House Bill 2331, that modifies the requirements for posting agendas and notices under the Open Public Meetings Act. That moves from the regular 24-hour notice to 72 hours notice. That puts a lot of pressure to have an agenda ready 72 hours in advance of your meetings. And also, it adds other requirements that will need to be way in advance, almost a week in advance, to know what your agenda meetings will be. So my recommendation for you is to oppose that.
I'm okay with opposition.
yeah.
House Bill 2348. That is related to, removes the requirements for eligible organizations receiving over $500,000 from the specific housing and homeless-related programs, that will be us, from having to apply for the Washington State Quality Award program. That is a requirement. It removes that requirement. And what it does is it really streamlines the process without having to be so restrictive. The more information related to this bill, the requirement for eligible organizations, in this case the county, to apply to the Washington State Quality Award program if they receive over $500,000 in a calendar year from the Transitional Housing Operating and Rent Program, another specified fundings is now removed. Because right now you have to apply for this, and this removes that requirement.
What is a quality award program? I never heard of it.
Go ahead.
The Washington State Quality Award Program is modeled after the Baldrige program. It's a standard of excellence and a long process that an organization would go through, establishing strategic plan, strategies, performance measures, ongoing quality improvement processes. It's great in theory, but it becomes excruciating, difficult process just to apply for the award, much less to win the award. I think that our time is much better spent, and the money that it costs is much better spent in accreditation. This was put in place, it was spearheaded by the Representative Malosha about, I want to say that was about 16 years ago, at a time when he was successfully putting this type of requirement on many things that state agencies did. And since he was also a champion of this housing fee, he inserted it in that bill as well. It's just an incredibly burdensome process. And while it's great and something we should aspire to, accreditation is better.
And we're required to do it, is what Ramiro said.
Well, this point is required. In this case, remove that requirement, becomes optional.
I don't know that the county ever did actually apply for the award. I don't know how many counties would have. I know that many state agencies got extensions and exceptions from the governor because it's an extremely burdensome process. And I was just about to look up to see if the organization that does the reviews even still exists.
So you're not supportive of this bill?
I
She's very
absolutely
supportive.
support this bill.
Oh, you do? Okay, so
I
take
think
that.
that it was a not well thought out thing that got into
Well, that got
state
in,
law.
okay.
Yeah, and you want to get that out,
Streamline, okay.
All about efficiencies, I might add.
I would say.
Wow.
Do I have an opinion about this?
Oh, my goodness.
I think I do.
And that's your state and county hat?
Indeed.
Okay,
I'm with you.
I support it.
yeah, okay.
So House Bill 2438, that's concerning establishment of a prescription opioid impact account. It creates a prescription opioid impact account for programs and activities to address opioid misuse and abuse. Impose an impact fee of 1 cent per morphine milligram equivalent upon opioid manufacturers to be collected by the Department of Revenue and deposited into the account. So that's 263, and it creates the account, and the proposed fee is putting a fee into the manufacturers who provide that type of medication. That will be the morphine milligram equivalent, whatever that is. Public health is supportive of this. Yes.
So I've got questions, but I'll turn to my seatmates for a question on this.
I'm okay with this one.
I think I'm okay with it, just the way it's
So
written.
my question is, where's that money, that 1 cent? Where's it coming from?
Is coming from
Pharmaceuticals.
a fee imposed to the morphine milligram equivalent on the manufacturers.
Okay, and where does it go?
It's going to the opioid impact account.
Okay, is that a state account?
Yep.
And are there guidelines for its use?
Well, it's too premature to get to that point.
Oh, okay, so I'm wondering what are the guidelines for its use? Or can the state just use it for any other thing that they want? And/or the state will receive the interest on that because it's going to the state account. And depending on who has access to this account, the state will skim off the top for admin fees. I'm just wondering, trying to follow the money. Because that could be potentially a ton of money.
Maybe I can read about the account, what is intended. The prescription opioid impact account is created and its revenues is provided by the impact fee as described it. You just described. The account is appropriated and the expenditures are to primarily fund programs and activities to prevent opioid misuse and abuse, to prevent opioid overdose and overdose-related deaths, and to identify the threat opioid and use disorder. These expenditures may be used by the Department of Health for activities within the agency and throughout the grants and state agencies, counties, and cities. Counties that have not levied the sales tax, which is another option in here, may not be eligible for this taxation. So, for this account.
I'd just throw out there that
to answer your question, there
Yes.
is enough flexibility in the language. I read that perhaps it may be used for other
Thank you.
purposes. But I think is a good step forward.
It's a step forward, but it could be like the marijuana. They
Yeah.
give us back less than, well, no, I think more than 1%. About 1% now of what's collected in Thurston County. We get 1% back.
The money floated.
I wouldn't hold my breath for a big windfall.
Do you have a comment on this?
I'll let it go. I just wanted to question whether you said the jurisdiction, by jurisdiction, has to impose this. Is that what you were saying?
No, it says the counties, they have not levied the sales and use tax for chemical dependency. So it's a different taxation. Or mental health treatment services or therapeutic services.
Like our treatment sales tax?
May not be accessed in this account. I think that's what it does.
But we have, because we have a treatment sales tax.
Yeah, you have a treatment sales tax.
And as I was, so anyway, I support this. I support it. And I was coming out of my dreamy sleep this morning to the news. I don't know if it was a local, state, or it was a national, but it's being recommended that prescribers of opioids must provide naloxone with every prescription. And I don't know if that was state or not. Just interesting anecdote. Okay.
House Bill 2452 reduces the real estate excise tax for multiple unit housing. And what this bill does, the multiple unit housing is flat 1.28% of the real estate excise tax as opposed to the escalation that we currently have. How is defined? A multi-unit housing means a building having 4 or more dwelling units not designed or used as transient accommodations or not to include hotels and motels. Is really to address the shortage of housing inventory. And again, this bill is intended to set a flat rate for those housing units out of the real estate excise tax. My recommendation is to support because I believe the board wants to see some flexibility on affordable housing.
Don't we rely on this tax for supporting our capital projects and?
And this includes all the real estate excise tax 1 and 2, grade 1 and 2.
So we would have less income?
Yeah, for only those areas.
Yeah. Or projects. Is that from the date of passage on, or does this?
It's not retroactive, no.
No, not retroactive, okay.
No, it couldn't be retroactive. That would be extremely difficult.
Okay, so we can't even predict with any certainty then, or ballpark, what kind of impact that'll have on the county, financial impact.
It will be extremely difficult to see how many dwellings that meet this criteria we have permitted in the last year to determine what will be the impact.
I'm neutral on this.
I'm good with it.
2 supports, 1 neutral.
House Bill 2536 modifies the definitions of rural character within the Urban Growth Management Act, GMA, to refer to patterns of land use and development that provides opportunities to support natural growth of families and communities. It specifies that rural character includes but not limited to healthcare and wellness services, services and opportunities for children, and home-based economic opportunities. Public Health has reviewed this bill, is in support of that.
Question, comment on it?
I don't know that much about it.
Too complicated for me, I'd say neutral.
I don't either. Yeah, that's pretty deep. So neutral, what do you think?
Neutral.
Neutral.
House Bill 2629, and this requires electric, water, gas, and sewer utilities to waive connection charges for properties used by nonprofit organizations, local agencies, or any other legal entity in providing an emergency, transitional, or permanent supportive housing for homeless persons and victims of domestic violence who are homeless for personal safety reasons. So in this case, you don't have to exercise this. I think it gives you the ability to waive any connection charges. In our case, will be very limited, but certainly provide other organizations who provide those utilities to use this tool if they need to. It's not a mandate, it's another tool in toolbox.
Let me ask a question about that. So Lacey, I don't know, provides sewer service maybe in the UGA or something, so they'd be able to waive that connection fee for certain
if that meets the
uses?
criteria for homeless and transitional housing uses.
So does this make it more possible for affordable housing, I guess? That's
My guess is yes, and that's what I'm suggesting for you to support this.
okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a tool. I can handle it.
Substitute House Bill 2629. This is related to noxious weeds.
2697.
That would be, 2697. Thank you. Makes various changes to the Washington State Noxious Weed Control Board composition, the terms of the office. Makes various changes to county noxious weeds board provisions. And this is my concern, requires the county treasurer in counties within a noxious weed assessment to forward the state for payments and statements showing the amount of assessment to which state managed lands, state-owned lands, and state right-of-way will be liable if the land was in private ownership. So it creates another requirement the county has to meet to the state. And also, this is the most concerning, is requires forest land owners to control and prevent the spread of, to control Class C noxious weeds within the specified distance of adjacent land, roads, navigable waters, rivers, and certain other areas. So it gives, although as a requirement for the larger landholders in forested areas, it will give them yet another opportunity to use chemicals to deal with Class C noxious weeds. Based on what I'm hearing from the board, I recommend for you to oppose this bill.
Yep, I'm thumbs down.
Boy, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I'm kind of against it because I don't want more spray, but when you talk about exemptions for certain property, I mean, I know like your big timber interests and stuff don't have to keep track of weeds. They blow onto the adjoining property owner, but they don't have to control them. So I don't know enough about this.
Yeah, my main concern is the requirements they will have to report to the state on some of the activities.
Okay, I'm good for opposing then.
I don't want them telling me what to do.
I'll go along with
Same with, I mean, it's another layer. The treasurer has to file another
Create
report.
more unfunded mandates, basically,
Yep.
is what it is.
Have you heard from our treasurer on what he thinks about this?
So, no, I haven't got a chance to. So is that neutral? Is that?
No, everybody was opposed.
You're neutral. You're
no,
neutral.
I was going to go with oppose
Okay.
on this.
Okay,
Just
thank you. House Bill 2774.
Although I will tell Jeff Gabman I supported it.
And 2774 requires the Department of Commerce, to combine the inventory of state-owned real estate properties available for lease or sale. And they are submitted to the Commerce by all agencies across the state. Requires Commerce to annually publish the inventory of state-owned real estate properties on its website and provide notices of publication in parties interested in developing the sites for affordable housing. So there's a little bit of history in this. And Commissioner Hutchins may recall when you participated with a meeting with the governor and Mayor Selby, I believe, from the city of Olympia, related to how the state can make lands available to that. And as you may recall, we received a report of all the available lands that really didn't give us any indication because all that was park properties. This makes it a requirement to make an inventory and have that inventory available on the site. So my recommendation is for you to support.
Which is what we were asking for.
Yep.
Who supported or who proffered the bill?
Represents Rui, Morgan, Rommel, Dolio, Lignov, Bermquist, and Santos. Okay.
Is that 3 thumbs?
Yeah.
So the next bill, I really don't understand much. I really don't understand it very well. But this is a bill that public health is opposing. It's related to micro enterprise home kitchen operations.
I don't know what that
That's
is.
a thing?
So let me read the description of that. The micro enterprise home kitchen operations means a food facility that is operated by a person in the person's primary domestic residence, where food is stored, handled, prepared for, and may be reserved to consumers. It may be served to consumers. So it creates a lot of the restrictions on this in terms of food preparation. They cannot sell the food within more than 30 individual meals a day. May not engage on indirect sales and consumers. Food products prepared may not be delivered to outside of the state. So what I understand is the cookie bake sales will be affected by this. And because everybody who does provides offer the publics to sell, they have to now secure a permit. So that's my read of this, and I just go with the recommendation of public health to oppose it.
Why does our public health department oppose it?
Because it will be another burden for them to get the permit process. It will be an unfunded mandate. Then now they have to go through the process and making sure that each of those bake sales are permitted.
And it gives the Girl Scouts a monopoly.
Is this going to affect my daughter's lemonade stand?
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, unless you got a permit. That is funny.
In a different direction on my recommendation. House Bill 2628.
2826?
2826, my dyslexia is working. Okay. Authorizes the Liquor and Cannabis Board to adopt rules prohibiting any type of marijuana vapor product devices and prohibiting the use of any type of additive, solvent, ingredient, and compound in the production and processing marijuana products, including marijuana vapor products. You've heard from Public Health Social Services some of the chemicals included on the vaping products have been determined to be very dangerous. And this bill is trying to put some rules as to what type of chemicals can be put in there. They're not harmful for the public's consumption. And this bill is recommended for support.
I'm okay with that.
You guys are up on that?
I am.
I guess. I just what expertise are they gonna have versus the Department of Health, you'd think would have some knowledge? You're gonna have 3 board members up there that, I don't know.
So.
I've heard vitamin E is not good for you, smoke it or something like that.
But maybe it will sulfo?
I'm sorry, it does state, it authorizes the LCB to work with the Department of Health. to
Oh,
develop
okay,
those
that
rules.
makes it
Yeah,
better
thank
for
you.
me, yes.
And do you have any idea if Sulfo is supportive of this? I would imagine
I
they would.
assume that it is because the Public Health Department is supporting.
Perfect.
Public Health.
Yeah,
is
All right, thank you.
that makes me feel better.
House Bill 2915. It is related to increasing the relevant taxes to fully fund the Foundational Public Health Services account. And what this bill does is there is levied, collected as a tax upon the sale and use of consumption, handling and possession and distribution of all vapor products to be equal to the 45% of the taxable sales price. So increasing the taxable sales price for those products, and also provides for the specific use of the additional taxation to fund foundational public health. You may recall last year the legislature passed the foundational public health bill with no funding. This is an attempt to start generate some funding to do that.
And what are the relevant taxes?
It's on the vaping products.
Oh, just vaping products?
That's what is stated.
Doesn't apply across the board to other stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are all vapor products in the state.
I don't know enough about that. I don't know. I just don't trust the state to do the right thing for the right reasons. I've watched it too many times happen and it goes sideways, so I'm just going to stay out of it.
I'm kind of with you on that, but I support it. But I want to know if you know the Foundational Public Health Services account, where does that go?
All money is
Besides
collected
King County.
from tax.
Go to King County, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I don't think it specifically says we'll go to King County. No. Any money is collected from taxes imposed pursuant to this chapter of any heated tobacco products, vapor products, or any other tobacco products initially approved by the sales of the United States, blah, 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 must be deposited into this account. For the purposes of this subsection, heated tobacco products means a product containing tobacco, aerosol, and tobacco products, and everything heated to that. 50% of the funds, up to $5 million per fiscal year, must be transferred to the Andy Hill Cancer Research Endowment Fund Match Transfer Account related to RCW 43348. However, the minimum distribution for purposes of the nicotine cessation, prevention, education, and training is required. So it goes to specifically to address nicotine addiction.
So it's not going toward more generalized foundational
Well,
public
this is
health?
a piece of it, but not necessarily to all, because as you may
The $5
recall,
million.
it was a lot of money in order, I think, close to, I don't know, in the millions of dollars as to what the foundational public health should be.
I'm
fully
generally in support of this thing, but I think I don't think I know enough. I think I just want to stay neutral on it. But
I support it from a public health policy perspective. Don't trust what the government will do with all the money, but I support it as a public health issue.
I agree. Just the alarming statistics that we've gotten from our health department about the use of these products in school with school kids is just really aggravating, disappointing.
That's why I can't wait for the last one.
are we still?
So 2-1, right?
Well, is it still an issue where people are using that product even with, I guess with tobacco, I don't know about the flavored stuff, but to try and quit smoking, and is this going to be reduce that ability that those folks would have as a tool? I just don't know.
It could be. but that will be strategies within the program itself, but not necessarily address, that level of detail is not addressed in the bill.
I didn't get your question.
Well, some folks, I met with some county employees about this issue, and they said that they had quit smoking cigarettes and were now smoking a reduced amount of nicotine
On the vaping?
in the vaping
Okay.
end of things. So it was helping, what I was told, it was helping them quit smoking.
They can still, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's all. I'm just wondering if that's going to make it cost prohibitive for them to try and quit smoking, and I don't know how many people do it.
Yeah.
That's all.
It might help them, it might encourage them to quit sooner.
Yeah, they charge it enough, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say how much this is going to be, other than 45% I saw in there,
45%.
or something like that.
But I support it.
I'm going to stay neutral on it.
Okay. Substitute Senate Bill 6097, please disregard. You already looked at that one on the previous session. And,
We did?
It is related to the health insurance companies who have a larger surplus of a certain million, and there's a threshold as to how they need to report. And I think it's an attempt to curtail the
Profit margin.
profit margin.
Okay.
Last but not least, substitute Senate Bill 6489. And this is related to repeal civil infractions prohibiting the purchase of, or possession of tobacco and vapor products by a person under 18 years of age. Removes authority of a peace officer of the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board, enforcement officer, to detain a person purchasing and possession of tobacco products or vapor products if they are under 18 years old of age, and removes the authority of the peace officer of the LCB to seize tobacco products and vapor products from a person under 18 years old.
When you say 18, I see, everything I see here says 21. That's what I'm...
That's the title of the bill, but the summary bill talks about the 18 years old.
Which is under the age of 21.
Right.
But it repeals the authority of liquor control to go after...
To arrest individuals who have tobacco and vapor products under 18.
And does it address city or municipality enforcement?
No, it's just given the authorization for the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board.
It repeals it?
Yeah, it repeals it.
Okay.
It doesn't speak about any other law enforcement.
So let me just throw an example out that maybe you can equate to. There was a gentleman that was arrested for selling individual cigarettes in New York, and he ended up dead during the process somehow. So you're saying that enforcement officers will not be able to arrest
Or detain?
or detain people doing vaping or something?
Repeals the civil penalty or civil
Yeah,
penalties.
it's what is a civil enforcement.
Yeah. Not a crime, but a civil enforcement. We have in the
It
city of Olympia...
doesn't speak about arrest, it's detaining. So asking an individual.
It's kind of detaining is arresting.
I'm neutral on this. It's
Too
I don't
complicated.
quite get it.
Yeah.
We had, with the city of Olympia, you were not allowed to, city ordinance, you were not allowed, if you're under the age of 18, to possess, use, buy, or distribute tobacco products. I couldn't give you a cigarette, we're at middle school. And we had an officer back then that was relentless in detaining kids for that and using that as a tool. So I didn't know if, that's what I was asking, if it did anything to restrict municipalities
Some
from
rogue officers to
doing, use of discretion.
I can probably read the pro statements. There are no con statements on this.
Yeah, well, I support it.
You want to
read the
it?
pro statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to hear it.
The pro statement, this bill was brought to me by my substance prevention community. We are concerned about deterring the use of products that harm their brains. We should align under 18 with 18 to 21. We should treat young people as if they have a condition that needs to be addressed. and avoid confrontations with the LCB or police, so it speaks about police. We should hold the adults in this situation fully accountable. This bill responds to community concerns with the Tobacco 221 law. Now, providing cessation services disproportionately affects youth of color. It is not fair to allow these industries to hook youth and their dangerous products, raise the age, and then punish young for being addicted. We do not need police to detain and ID young people. These laws are ineffective and inequitably enforced against youth of color and LGBTQ youth. My friends start vaping because they peer pressure and advertisement. Youth should not be punished for addictions to products that were marked to them. Invest in age-appropriate smoking cessation programs. No proven data shows that penalties are successful in helping youth to quit. It is uncommon for young people to have a state-issue ID. It is scary to think my classmates could be detained and questioned by law enforcement officers. Retailer compliance checks is a proven way to reduce underage youth smoking. Our staff educate retailers and forward enforcement information to LCB. I am alarmed by the vaping epidemic. A stop and frisk law enforcement strategies. I'm just reading pieces of statements they provide. Okay, it's not just a single statement. A stop and frisk law enforcement strategies can result in significant harm, especially for minority and LGBTQ youth. Compliance checks with retailers are better as a better tool. The African American community has a complicated history with tobacco. Police stops can cause PTSD in youth of color. This is a step on the right direction.
I'm fine to support it.
I wonder what liquor control thinks about it.
What?
If liquor control likes it.
Oh, I don't
I know,
have the
I'm
answer to
just
that.
wondering.
I don't have the answer to that.
But I'm okay with it.
I'm neutral on it.
Okay.
And that's all I have for you.
That's all.
Thank you,
It's all
Ramon, for that.
You
Now
know,
we're
at the
getting
end
on-
of this legislative session, you're going to hate me. More than normal.
You'll be glad when it's over, won't you? The courthouse project mailer at 10 afternoon.
You could have this item on the commissioner's check-in if you like, on Thursday.
On Thursday? Perfect, let's do it.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
And,
Champion.
and also, I had an item, obviously it's not time, but also I will add another item for your Thursday commissioner's check-in, and it's a proposed annexation by the city of Lacey. And Commissioner Hutchins, you and I have been in touch with Mayor Ryder related to this annexation. I'm going to give you some information related to this. Please focus on the description of the proposed annexation area and the map behind it.
Do we have this already?
No, I'm going to give this to you. It just came to my attention this morning.
Okay.
And my recommendation for me is to support this annexation because the majority of the land included on this annexation is already owned by the city of Lacey. And this land is already designated as a preserve, so it will not be developed. So I will not be here on Thursday, and that is why I'm giving you this heads up. My recommendations on those terms, but I will ask Josh to come and give you that perspective.
Okay. Robin, are you the ringmaster on Thursday?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And just for the record, we do not oppose annexation. We're not anti-annexation.
No, but in the past you have, because it may appear by the boundaries that creates an island, and not necessarily.
Is that yours?
It's yours, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else, Gary?
No, I guess not. We're out of time, right?
Yeah. Commissioner, anything? Commissioner Menser? No. Okay. County Manager, any wrap-up, or are we done? We're done.
I will not be here Tuesday or next agenda setting next Thursday and agenda setting next Tuesday.
Okay, got it. As long as we have adult supervision, we're going to be okay. Thank you very kindly for watching, and we'll be back at 2.